Good morning, traders. Guess who's back in the hot seat? Money Mitch is here and ready to get back into the market, guys. It's going to be a great one. We will be looking around to see what we can come up with today, guys. Of course, we'll take a look at the playbook. We'll take a look at the sunrise report in the new house. So, of course, need to adjust my setup a little bit, but ready to get after the show today, ready to get to the trading action. And PPI is making the stocks move right now. So let's talk all about what's going on in PPI right now, guys. So we'll take a look at the action. Let's take a look at the market overall as we're getting a little bit of a lift here, and I'll bring in the numbers that we need to pay attention to, but definitely a nice little spike on that first reaction all the way up there to 586. Now a little bit of a pullback here. You guys can see that on the SPY action here, and we'll look to see if that can continue to lift off from the PPI number. And of course, let's give the PPI numbers here as we got month over month in December at 0.2 versus a 0.4 estimate, prior being 0.4. Core PPI for December at 0 versus a 0.3 estimate and prior being 0.2. Then we got the year over year December outlook at 3.3 versus a 3.5 estimate, prior being 3.0. And then if we take a look at the core PPI year over year, we're getting here December 3.5 versus a 3.8 estimate, prior being 3.5. So all good reactions here, at least on the first reaction of the number. We'll see if we can come back and take that 586. But I think this gives a good opportunity here today to see if potentially we could get some of these tech stocks to rally, right? We'll see what happens. Let's go to the XLK to first take a look at that. And of course, look at the stock that's been beaten down the most lately. It's been NVIDIA, guys. Of course, I've been keeping up with the market. Haven't been trading as much, but taking a look into the market here. And NVIDIA all the way back down through support yesterday, bouncing back a little bit today. And that's why we'll talk a little bit about my playbook. And this is one that's on my playbook. We'll talk about it. Stay tuned, guys. We'll talk all about that coming up here. And Tesla starting to show a little bit of some trend line approach, right? And so you guys can see how that is kind of leaning into that 415. We'll look to see if we can get to the 420 spot today in Tesla. Let's go back to the SPY. How's the reaction doing here? Of course, on that first reaction, we got a pullback right back to the 90 MA. Let's see if some buyers step in here, and it goes right back to the 586. But let's go ahead. Let's kick off today's playbook action and take a look at what stocks Money Mitch has up his sleeve. All right, guys. So first up, we'll start off with the banks, as of course they'll be coming in with earnings this week. We got to pay attention to see what happens there. But I'm looking at even running into them on a day trade action, right? JPM is the one that I'll be watching here. JPM, of course, Chase here is just looking good on the daily. Nice sideways consolidation after, of course, the Trump kind of election, right? That was this bar here. We've had some really good sideways consolidation, and we've even attempted to fill in some of that gap. Now I'm wondering, do we go back to kind of rip out of this? The 250s looking good for me as we start to see JPM start to turn. And I think that all the banks will be looking interesting. And I think you got to keep watch on that, especially going into these earnings with deregulation or maybe less regulation as intended for the banks with underneath the Trump administration is something to keep an eye out for. Another area that I'm watching is China stocks as I'm looking to see what happens there in JD. I was trading this yesterday thinking it would turn a little bit, and it did. A nice little gap up today. Now the only question is, can these continue? Right? Baba doing the same thing, kind of bottoming action here. And I'm really taking a look at this because I think at some point we are going to see a nice little rip come out of China. The only question is when. And of course, we'll be keeping an eye on it. Let's get to those comments in the chat. If you guys are new to the show or for some reason haven't been there before, say hello. It's good to see you guys out on X and different platforms out there. Let's keep it going. And of course, like always, hit the like button and let's get some more traders in here to take a look at some of the action that they're watching. And if you guys got a trade you guys want to check out, of course, throw it up in the chat. I'm always here to take a look at some of the stocks that you guys are watching right now. All right, that's going to be the China stocks. And of course, the last one that we'll talk about is a favorite right now. And it's not a favorite on the price action because the price action's been pretty tough on AMD. And we've had a couple of lift offs to this 132. That's the level that I'd really put out in my mind. If AMD is really going to have a killer year, it needs to recover that 132. But doesn't mean that I can't play it here for day trade, right? Looking for it to fill the gap up towards Wednesday's price action. 121.84 was the closing price there. Definitely could see that coming into play today. And I'm looking for AMD to be one of those undercut and rally strategies. So where the bulls were getting in here, they got washed out just yesterday and the day prior. So now at that point, I'm starting to look for the recovery. So as the bulls start to get washed out, I'll be looking to see if AMD can get the lift. Okay, we'll see what happens with that, of course, and we'll talk more about different playbook action, different stocks that you guys can be watching in the market right now. Like always, guys, take a look at what's going on in the market. And if you guys got a stock that you want to add to the playbook, you can always reach out to us on Twitter. We put this out on Twitter and X so that you guys can catch the playbook daily. All right, let's keep it moving. We'll go to the sunrise report. Before we do that, let's take a peek back into the market, see how we're doing right now, see how the market's moving overall. And you guys can see we're going sideways off that 9 EMA right now. We did get the pop to the 586, but the only question is, will we go right back up to the 586? Something to keep on watch. And stay tuned, guys, because we're going to have some fun show today. Of course, Michael Noss will be back with me, and we'll be taking a dive into different action, guys. I want to go ahead and bring you guys more and more. So today we'll be going into PPI, describing exactly what it is and its importance. We'll also be talking about how you could use this, right? Maybe in a real life example. Maybe we'll bring a couple of years back, but of course, stick around. There's going to be some great knowledge talked about on PPI. And then a little later today, stay tuned because we're going to have the chart of the day where you guys pick the chart that I trade. I'll give you guys a selection, of course. We're going to have some fun on the show and keep it going, guys. Like always, smash the like and let's take a look what else is moving right now. All right, guys. And of course, so you guys see another scanner here. This is from my TC, but I'm still looking to try to catch what's moving right now to kind of catch those bigger stocks moves right now. So, of course, we got some smaller names making some big moves. We'll keep an eye out on them. I saw this AIFF really make a move to like $4, guys. So this was a nice little rip out. We'll keep watch on some of these cheaper names, but really also taking a look to see what's on the volume surge, right? What is coming up on the volume is always important. And we'll take a look at different names there, see if anything stands out to us that we should be looking at. And of course, like always, guys, we'll take a look at different stocks that you guys could be taking a look at and let me know. We can always add some to the watch list or take a look in to see what's making a big move in volume. Also, always take a look at that because I always like to trade with the volume, right? A lot of volume still in Fubo after, of course, their Disney purchase. They're pulled back to the 9 EMA. Could this make a move back there towards 5 and 6? I definitely think so. So another one to watch on a day like today. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for the morning outlook. Let's go to the sunrise report. Take a look at what's moving out there and what else we could be trading. What's going on? How we doing out there? It's good to see you guys. AIFF says Steph. Yeah, of course. See that one moving right now. It's good to see you guys out there, and it's good to be back in the hot seat. Expect me here, guys. Moving forward, I know that I had a couple of days, dealt with a lot of issues, but guess what? We're here. We're ready to get trading, ready to make some money. Let's get to today's sunrise report. All right, team. First, we'll start it off with just talking about the stock futures. Of course, they're climbing ahead of the key inflation data that just hit, and you saw the spike go up on that, right? So the producer price index, the PPI, was out at 830, and it was expected to show a 0.4% growth in the headline and 0.3% in core. Why are these important, right? Of course, we'll talk a little bit more about it during the show. But these inflation figures, along with CPI report tomorrow, could shape the Fed's next interest rate move, which is currently pricing in right now an 80% chance of holding rates steady in March. That's very important, guys, because that's what affected stocks the most. There's two things always. There's going to be fiscal and monetary policy that you got to pay attention to. Here, we're talking what? Monetary, right? So we'll see what happens there with the Fed's next interest rate move with the kind of data that we got today in the PPI. Of course, the earnings are on watch this week as the banking giants kick off the Q4 earnings this week. Wednesday, we'll be getting JPM, Citi, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo. And then on Thursday, we get Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, right? So I'll be watching these names to see if they get to run ahead of the earnings. And it can just happen like a day like today. So I'll be watching these names, especially on the action today. Let's talk a little bit more about different sector moves out there. We'll talk a little bit about the tech weakness. We'll take a look at that with taking a look at XLK. And you guys can see the tech weakness out there right now. It's definitely been a nice little pullback. The only question is, when will we kind of get the nice push? This is oversold on the RSI, so we'll see what happens here. And we've been lately seeing some gains in energy. So you can see it with the XLE and energy overall getting a nice little spike there. Healthcare and materials also spiking. So we'll see if gold can continue pushing. I mean, that's a nice little pullback. But steel was getting a nice little push there. So Cleveland Cliff, Nucor today, you guys can see it. The steel names are getting a nice little push, and I've been waiting to see if these would push. So today, definitely Cleveland Cliff, Steel Dynamics are all names that will be on my radar in, of course, the material game. You got Chevron and United Health also getting a nice little lift. Chevron with a nice little push here. You guys can see how that's been pushing right back to the 155. All right, let's talk a little bit about Southwest Airlines as there's some changes that are being made here. We'll see if this can get a little bit of a lift. I was watching for this, but they're pausing corporate hiring and team events to cut costs. CEO Bob Jordan focuses on restoring margins with operational changes like assigned seating and fewer unprofitable routes. Shares are up 14% year to date, but lagging United, of course, it's up 160% year to date. So Q4 earnings are coming in on January 30th. Keep your eyes on that. That's going to be vital. That's coming in about a week or two. So we'll see what happens there as CEO Bob Jordan tries to turn things around at Southwest Airlines. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go towards the next action that we'll talk about. We'll talk about Moderna, KBH, Applied Digital. We'll talk a little bit about Signet, Teladoc. What are you guys seeing out there? Let me know what you guys are looking at. We'll continue to take a look into this market and see what else we can come up with. All right, like always, guys, let's keep it moving. Let's see what else we got here today. And let's see, what stocks are you guys watching? Anything on your radar? We got a couple more to go through here, but I'll catch some comments in the chat. It's always good to see you guys. I haven't seen you guys in a little while, so definitely happy to be back into the hot seat. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of these stocks. The first one up we'll get into is Moderna, as Moderna getting really just smacked hard here on guidance. Let's talk a little bit about that and why did it go down? Well, of course, it's taken a major hit here as you're seeing that big hit on Moderna. They slashed 2025 guidance by $1 billion, guys. That is no little feat, right? They're now forecasting only 1.5 to 2.5 billion in revenue. Revenue is expected to pick up in the second half of 2025 as it expands its portfolio and cut costs. Shares plunging 17%, dragging vaccine peers like NVAX 7% and BNTX 7% also. So both of these taking major beatings yesterday as that outlook is not what you want to be seeing. All right, let's keep it going. Let's go to KBH Homes as they're building homes. And I can tell you that right now as someone that's looking at homes, and I'm in an area where there's hundreds and hundreds of homes that have just gotten built. So we'll see what happens there. KBH Homes surging 8% after the Q4 results beat the expectations of 252 and 245 forecasts and $2 billion in revenue versus a 1.99 billion expected. So good move there from KBH Homes and continuing to lift above the 73. I'd keep an eye out on kind of like the ITB, which is the Constructors Index. And this can help you find some names in the home builder space. And this could come back ramping. We'll see what happens, of course, with the Home Construction Index. Let's go to applied materials, as a APLD is one that definitely keep an eye out today. And I like the chart overall. You can see it on kind of a little bit of a cup and then kind of the handle starting to form. I'd really be taking a look to see if this can go back through, let's say, the 1050s, 11s. We'll see what happens through there, but definitely these don't look too bad on APLD. Now, what's the news, right? It has to be some pretty good news to move it like this. Well, it jumped 19.3% after Macquarie announced a $5 billion investment in its AI data centers, acquiring a 15% stake in the company's high-performance computing business. Of course, we've seen how AI data centers have really grown, and this is one of those that could keep pushing. This is a major vote in confidence in Applied Digital's growth trajectory, and they wouldn't have invested in it if they didn't see the upside, right? So now I think we keep this one on the radar to see if it makes a move back through 10 today, right? I think that's going to be an important level for me. Of course, it could get all the way back here to 1071, and it could also pull back all the way towards the 850s, maybe even lower than that. So I'm going to keep an eye out on it. A big part of it is going to be watching back through 10. All right, let's keep it going, guys. What's going on out there, guys? Catching up with some of you guys in the comments. Staff being moved out there. All right, we'll take a look at that. Let me see if there's any other ones that we're going to cover today. We got a couple more here. Let's go through Signet, Jewelers, Teladoc. First one up, Signet, of course. We're talking expensive jewelry, right? Well, that takes a big hit in this type of environment, and big hit here indeed. I think luxury goods is an area to look for some more continued downside. So if we look at the luxury goods overall, there's a couple of names here definitely to watch. And if you do it by high market cap, you can see you got TPR right at the top that's been doing well. Capri trying to come back here. But there's some other ones, right? Signet, definitely not looking good. You got Fossil that's pulling back there. I just don't feel good about this space overall. We'll see what happens. Tumbling 16% after weak holiday sales drove downgrade in Q4 guidance. Consumers favored low price items, raising concerns about profit margins. So if anything, this is just supporting more and more that ELF should be getting that next lift. So if there's one that I'm watching, forget Signet Jewelers. I'm watching for a cheap cosmetic name like Elf Beauty to really start getting some love, because if the consumer's changing on their preference, they're going to be looking at this Elf Beauty. We'll see what happens if it can start to really get the lift. Nice little trend line push here. I'd be looking for pullbacks to 130, but this one looks in play today. Elf Beauty, nice little move there. Teladoc, let's go to Teladoc, T-Doc here, as that's been getting a nice little lift. And this is a partnership with a big boy company. We've talked about this before. They're gaining 4% on a partnership with Amazon to offer diabetes, hypertension, and weight management programs on the platform. That's exactly what you want to see, guys. I think that this is a good thing for Amazon. It's a good thing for Teladoc. I think you continue to watch to see how it reacts. On the hourly, it's been trying to turn things back around. Daily keeps failing, though, above the 10s into like the 1020s, 1050s, 1060. Up here, we just keep failing. So we need to clear this if we're actually going to turn around this chart. We'll see. I think this is one to watch. Nothing that I'm trading right now, but something to look at today in the market. All right, let's keep it going. We'll go to one last one here. This is a automaker, but it's a U.S. listed one that not many people talk about, right? HiSci, it's HSAI. You guys are seeing this get a lift there now towards 15. This has been holding on, guys. Goldman Sachs upgraded the stock to buy, and analysts citing operating leverage from new product cycles and attractive valuation levels. So we'll see what happens here in the HiSci and different EV makers. Not a bad move there, continuing the strength. And I think this is just one of those where it keeps holding the trend, and the trend's your friend until it isn't, right? SoundHound down there below, getting a little bit of a bounce. These quantum names definitely getting a little bounce. We'll see if they can bounce here. It's something definitely to take a look at. What's going on out there, traders? It's good to see you guys. Let's get some more traders in here. You guys do me the favor. Take a second, hit the like button, and let me know what's your top trade that you're watching in the market today. I'll let you guys know mine. Let's keep going. Let's take a look at what else is in the market. All right, guys, in a little bit, I'll be joined by Michael Nas. It's about to be 9 a.m. We're about to kick things off, of course, into TTP Live, but I'm ready to get going, guys. You guys know where you're at. Let's keep it moving, and let's see what else we can come up with today. All right, looking around, traders, let me know what you guys are seeing. Let's go ahead. Let's see what I can find in the market today, guys. A lot of action going to be watching the oil stocks as of late. They've been hot. But I'll be watching all around technology, consumer cyclical, and what happens in the industrial space. A lot of volume coming into names like Cat and Honeywell and names like that. Deere yesterday getting a nice little lift. Honeywell is one that I'm watching to see if it can get hot today. It's been hanging on. It's filled the gap. Now could start working its way back there to 235, 240s, 250s. We'll see what happens there in Honeywell. I'm watching the industrial space closely because I think this got mainly affected by the mentality that, oh, we're going to do rate cuts. That's usually good for the industrial plays, right? Because let's say like in heavy construction, right? Those items are really expensive. We're talking millions of dollars, right? A lot of these are going to be on a loan or something like that, right? Well, the interest rate is going to heavily impact heavy cost items. So in the heavy construction market, that's why I think we had the pullback. Now, do we get the next lift? And can GE stay hot, man? This thing had an amazing 2024. Now let's see. Can it hold on to 2025? I don't know. That weekly scares me a little bit, but we'll find out. It's holding on right now. But that's enough of my outlook. It's time to really kick things off, get things going. You guys know where you're at. It's TTP Live. Let's go ahead. Let's get it started. Wants 200, baby. You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. What's going on, team? Let's go ahead. Let's bring on the man himself. You guys have been trading with him and excited to bring him back on. Let's go. Michael, what's going on? How we doing, man?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. Good to see you back. Market's doing awesome. We're ripping everywhere. Like, what more do you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, like always, the market was waiting for me, guys. So if you were wondering what was going on, it was waiting for Money Mitch, of course.
Absolutely.
So ready to get back to it, right? I mean, I called Trump up. I said, Trump, take it easy right now, man. You know, and Jay Powell, the big bad wolf, I was like, you know, hang out for the side for a little bit. I got some stuff to deal with, so we'll be back. All right, so the market's here, guys. PPI coming in today, Michael, and coming in a little light. And market reacting to the upside with that. Now, can it hold on? What are you seeing in the market, and what was your first reaction off of the PPI number?
Well, it's kind of the inverse of what we've been talking about for the last week or so now. Right, as always, I start here. This just shows me all the sectors that I watch, what's up or down. And we've been noting for the last almost 2 weeks now that, hey, we were seeing energy, we were seeing metals, we were seeing copper, we were seeing everything up, and then we tech down, right? This flippening of, hey, you don't want to be in tech, you want to be in energy. Kind of the exact opposite today, right? WGMI is your Bitcoin miners that's leading the pack. K-Web is a technology, but for China, we have ARK up. I don't know how often you see ARK doing this well and on this list. It's not very often. And then down at the bottom, if you squint, you've got oil, OIH, you've got UNG down 3%. That's a shame for me, but that's just what it does. Semiconductors are about even. So yeah, we're getting this flip where last 2 weeks it's been, I guess, inflation worries. So let's buy, big tech. Let's buy or let's sell big tech. Let's buy energy, all this kind of stuff. Now that inflation might be softening a bit. We don't need to worry as much about it. Those hedges that everyone's putting on, right? Because the best way to, if you're worried about gas prices going up, best thing you could do is just buy a bunch of USO, right? If you're going to lose money on one side, you're going to make it on the other. And yeah, we're getting that flip happening. So it'll be very interesting to see if that holds today. Overall markets, I love to see it. You got the S&P 500, that level that everybody in the world was watching. We undercut it yesterday. We closed strong. That suckered in even people that I know and that I talked to well after the show. A lot of traders out there were dumping. They're saying, listen, no, we're breaking down. It's a new bear market and all this just to end the day underwater on those positions. I think that's a big sentiment shift.
The bear's out the caves, that's when you got to start looking out there. I think that this is it's kind of expected, right? I mean, there's a lot of euphoria in the market in December, and it happens. It clearly happens, especially when you're seeing that kind of move right before going into a new year, right? And I think that this is taming the expectations, right? Mm-hmm. And with that being said, what is the real problem here? It's the uncertainty of inflation and the interest rates, right? Because we just don't know where that's going to go right now, whether inflation's actually going to rise with the moves that Trump's trying to do with the tariffs and things like that. And then the conversation of, well, what will the Fed do off of that, right? Because the truth is they gave us one story of, hey, we're going to do all these cuts next year. Then they pulled back on that story. And then they said, well, we have to wait and see what Trump does, essentially. So I think that's something to look at.
Yeah, and I think, right, if you wanted to boil it down to its simplest form, people are saying if inflation goes up, they're not going to cut as much. That's bad for the market. Inflation goes down, they'll cut more. That's good for the market, right? That's kind of the summary. But what we saw in the market, and I did this tweet on the weekend and got a bunch of people mad. I know me and Steve were talking about this yesterday, where I just noted all of these pullbacks that we've had throughout this insane bull market, right?
Love it, man.
There,
those are the ones I look at too. And there's like 3 or 4 of them, like big corrections, right? I think on that chart, you can clearly see it.
Yeah, and my tweet was just, why is everyone so mad, right? We pull back 5 to 10% in bull markets all the time, and of course, everyone got mad. So it felt like one of those moments yesterday. And again, me and Steve were talking about this a lot, where everybody was so bared up, even though the markets just took a normal 5% pullback. The guys that don't tweet very much when the market's going up were tweeting up a storm on the weekend. So we were both looking for this exact thing to happen. So I'm people who tuned in the show, I hope you guys took advantage of that as well. Because even when we were trading down here in the morning, me and Steve said the same thing as we were logging off. We're saying, listen, if we reclaim this 580 or so on the SPY, I'm going to be buying. I bought a whole bunch of stuff yesterday. So I'm happy to see we didn't completely fall apart yet, because a nice up move from here would be very, very good for Michael.
Hey, I don't think anybody's going to get mad. These are the moments where you got to make trading decisions, right? Especially in like kind of swing trading mentality. These are the moments where I feel like I've made the best swing trades, right? Because essentially you got traders caught on 2 sides, right? There's a lot of people in the bull camp. There's a lot of people in the bear camp. Tell you what, one side's going to win probably here. And I think that we got to be watching to see what happens, what resolves out of this, right? And of course, what has happened in the pullback, right? It's been technology, right? I mean, let's just be honest. That's where I think I'm seeing a lot of that pullback coming in. And I wanted to bring in here FinViz to kind of show that. Of course, this is a free resource. I always give them a little love because I love free resources, at least for traders to look at things like this, right? I'm just going in the groups tab.
Just talking with FinViz. I've been going to that website for probably 20 years now. They've been out forever as a free
and it's site, perfectly free, right? I've used even their paid features before, and they're just pretty good. I like it. I definitely think that they do really well. And for people that like to use like screeners and search for stocks and different things like that, and they even got back tests now, but just to give them a little love, right? But look at the groups, right? I think this is something important to look at, right? If you think about things in half the year and 3 months, and then looking into the 1 month performance, right? What do you see leading that downside action? You see basic materials, you see real estate, and some defensive names. And then what do you see that's up right now? Well, you're seeing at least that in 1 week that basic materials definitely is starting to turn. energy showing up there, healthcare showing up, and some defense. So it's still in the red there for defense. So it's not like the market's just completely gone defensive. If this was the area that was leading, that would have me more in a concern than what I'm seeing there. Is that what you think similar to that, Michael?
Yeah, and I remember one time Steve was on, we talked about just comparing the XLY, which is your consumer discretionaries, with XLP, which is consumer staples, right? And what you want to see, so here's X, we could do this in a ratio, but if we just want to be quick, we go XLY. So this is people buying stuff that they don't need, is essentially the summary of this chart. Looks pretty good, right? People are buying a lot of stuff they don't need. And then XLP, this is people buying or hoarding stuff that they do need. And this can be just a really good sentiment gauge. If, like you said, XLP starts to rip, XLY starts to come down, that means people are starting to get a little bit worried. They're pulling back their spending. They're not doing as much when it comes to, buying Amazon purchases and all that. They're buying more toilet paper, Campbell's soup. That's the kind of thing that's in this one. So yeah, you can see that pretty clearly if you go through the sectors, that this has just been falling apart and this has been popping. So even though the market's been pulling back a bit, again, I think it's just more of this restructuring, and we could continue to see it where energy continues to do well, technology pulls back a bit. And I know, especially for new traders, that's scary, but Ralph Alcampora, godfather of the CMT, always said rotation is the lifeblood of a bull market. You have to see other sectors starting to pick up. They need to start coming behind. They need to start, yes, it's the most fun to trade quantum computing and AI and all this crazy stuff, but they can't lead forever. At some point, you need home builders to do well. You need oil stocks to do well. You need kind of that base of an economy to really pick up. So again, I don't think it's going to be a bad thing if we see this rotation a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking around at least in the weak and strong areas, right? One area definitely weak, and we can see the reaction. Lululemon definitely taking a big hit, and Macy's. When I was last on, Macy's was at 16, and that was on Wednesday the 8th, and I was like, man, this was one of my biggest swing shorts last year. I was thinking Macy's going down again, and oh man, it's already doing it, man. It's already down now towards 1470. So in just about 2 or 3 days, down about 9-10%. So we'll see what happens here. If we still see continuation decline of department stores, like KSS is another one that I've been watching just decline, and it's just not looking good in that area. Even AEO taking a big hit down. I mean, big hit down, even though they gave a good outlook off of the kind of the holidays. So watch out, right? ANF also taking a big spike down also. So I think retail overall,
ugly.
I think this is, I think this is also has to do with just January coming in, right? I mean, even though the holidays are a great month to look for retail names to kind of get the spike, as you get through, let's say, New Year's into the early January, let's be honest, how many of you guys do you know people that are going out shopping in early January? Not many.
I've put a hiatus on my house after seeing all the bills from Christmas. I go, listen, that's enough. Give me a couple months, right?
At least, give me a nice little pause, right, in the spending, right? And I think that's what majority of humans do, right? Mm-hmm. We get too excited in December. We take holidays. We do vacations. We buy things that we normally wouldn't buy. We order things at the house, like, we order in little fancy treats and things like that, just spending extra money. Mm-hmm. That slowly goes to a pause, right? When does that start to pick back up? As we get into the spring and summer months, right? So I'm looking for a real bad retail winter, right? So that's where I can see it right now. Definitely taking the hit. So we'll see if XRT continues to come down here. Even, when the GameStop will end, that's when I really think we'll start to see XRT really take a dip. So I'm watching to see if GME is kind of done here. It looks to me like it could start slowing down here. We'll see what happens on some other names, but definitely XRT is an area to keep an eye out for some more downside action. We'll see what happens in the quantum names. How you feeling about the quantum names now? It's been a reckoning, to say the least.
I just think it's a story, right? I actually did a video about this on my channel recently about, you have to, if you're playing these story stocks, you got to play them while the getting's good, right? The trends are going, everything's going crazy, all the sentiment's good. They all have this moment where they break. It just happens. Whatever the story is, you get to see whether or not it's real when something bad happens, right? If it gets cut 50%, some of these 70, 80%, it's probably not real, at least for now, right? Maybe 10 years from now, you end up waking up in these things of 10x, but you've probably gotten a lot of opportunities in those 10 years. If when something bad comes out, you get a 10, 20% pullback, that's a little bit different, but it just shows that the demand has completely left the room on this. There was no one out there who's saying, okay, these are starting to get undervalued. I'm starting to take a hit. So what you may get, what I think may happen, is kind of one last kind of dying gasp as it takes one more pop higher. And then I think that's probably the end of them, at least for now. That's my bet anyway. Yeah,
I can see that happening too, because like always, the market likes to hurt the most also. It's not just going to give it to the shorts easily. So I think that's what you'll see too, right? Maybe small little pops going into a little bit over hourly resistance and then flush backs down. That's what a lot of the big shorters, right? The big ones that you hear about, that's their strategy too, right? They get into this, they're probably building a position when this was like, let's say QSI here, closer towards 5. Now they're looking for the pops back to 3 and 4 to add, right? And so we'll see what happens with situations like this. If we start to see higher volumes on those jump days, I'd actually like to see lower volume on those jump days to just show me that bulls are slowly coming back in versus just that quick short seller that jumps in and nails it right back down, right?
Well, and you're right. And that's what you'll notice. If it is just a short, like if, shorts, as much as people like to rail on them, you want people, if your stock is going to do well, you want everyone to short it, right? Tesla's the perfect example of that. I don't think Tesla would have gotten nearly as high as it did if it wasn't shorted so heavily for so long. But shorts cannot make a good company go down, right? They can't do that. That's not how it works.
Exactly.
They make bad companies go down. So it's one of those things that if these shorts come in and you see these just insane, like 100, 200, 300, 400% pops that wouldn't even really get you too much close back to even. And then it starts to fade again, then that was probably a short covering rally, right? There's someone out there who shorted at 5, it hit like 1.5 or 2, and the guy's just like, I'm going to hit the button to get out. That's going to cause a big flurry of buying. But you're right. You got to look to see what that second move is and is it sustained. I just don't know what news could come out to reinvite these things. Like who is big enough out there that they could say, no, we're going to get quantum computing in a few years.
This is the one, but it ain't going to happen, guys. It ain't going to happen. It's Google, right? What got the small ones going, right? That's what I would ask. It was when Google started mentioning their chip, right? Yeah. And that's why I always look for the big boy. Once the big boy's in, why is the big boy bringing it up? It just wants to be a part of the hype. That's why it brought it up. It just wanted to be a part of it.
I think it's the same with AI too. Like everybody, when AI really started to launch, everyone went looking for these little tiny junky little AI plays that they thought were going to 10, 15x.
Exactly.
But you're not going to outspend. If anyone's going to invent quantum computing, it's going to be Google or Apple, one of these guys who can they have a $10 billion a year research department somewhere. And they don't even care, right? They're like, you guys go play with your quantum, whatever. And if it turns into something great, we'll make a lot of money. And if not, it's just a line item we write off for taxes, right? Exactly. It's not going to be this little tiny. Now, if it's a drug or something, maybe it's a smaller company that develops something before something else. But when something is massive and labor intensive and all of this, like with AI, what we're seeing is the leaders lead. Google and Apple, Meta, all these big names are going to lead. And then some private companies that unfortunately we can't invest in, right? It would have been nice to get into OpenAI a couple of years ago. By the time this thing goes public, it's probably going to be too late. It's probably going to be one of the best shorts out there.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that I'm seeing is, so to me, quantum was a theme that wasn't meant to last because, like you mentioned, it's nothing that's being used right now. And
Mhm.
so, what I'm looking for is what are the themes that are meant to last in 2025? Because I think those are the ones you need to be watching here on the pullbacks, right? So, what I'm thinking is just calling it as themes, right? So I'm thinking one of them could be like lithium plays.
Yeah.
I like the autonomous plays that would include Tesla, right?
Mhm.
Those types of names, the nuclear plays, the small reactors, because those are going to need to be built up, right? Like that's going to take a little while also too, but at least
Mhm.
in play. And that's what I'm trying to think about. What are the themes in 2025 to watch? Not necessarily what was December's theme, right? And I think that that's what too many people are getting stuck on.
Exactly, and that's I think you're right to go down, especially with the knock-on effect of AI. Like nuclear is a knock-on effect of AI. How the uh, how it's one of those things where what's going to power it. So we know chips, right? We know chips are important. Is there a competitor to Nvidia on the horizon? Right? Could an AMD or an Intel or something? Um, right? That's something that we could take a look at. Yeah, what's down the list? I'm still shocked, and I again, I've done some research, and this all comes technically for me. This PSIL, right? The psychedelic
Mm,
one. This is
yeah.
very, it's even when the market sold off over, and that's what's really getting me. So take this chart and let's look at the SPY, right? So the SPY from December 9th down, 5% or so. That's pretty heavy for the SPY. PSIL, which is a psychedelic sector, from the same date, up quite a bit. So that's just got me interested. Again, I'm not smart enough to know what they're working on and how far along. I know there's a couple of these names that are in phase 3, and that should probably hit, I'd imagine, sometime this year. I think
Yeah.
that could be interesting, but that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be a theme for this year. If you're trying to find the sector, if you're trying to find the story of the year, look for when the market's selling off and just simply make a list of what they don't. You see, I've got this list here of ETFs that I follow, and it's just sorted by which ones are up the most on the day. That's it. So when the market takes a hit, I can just go through this list of everything that didn't sell. And like me and Mitch were talking about, you'll see consumer staples there, just ignore that. You'll see utilities there, just ignore that. But when something, right, say for example, China was up when the market was down, it
Hmm.
wasn't in this case, but let's say you saw something like that, that should start to get you thinking. If you start to see home builders up when the market's down, you start thinking, right? These sectors that generally aren't considered defensive. Like I don't think anyone looks at psychedelics and says, "Oh yeah, that's a nice safe place to put my money right now." But when the market was selling, this was rallying a bit. So it's those things that I really think we need to notice. And then could just be more of the same with AI, right? Someone I met in the chat, I just said or saw AMD got an upgrade. Is that what I read? Yeah, AMD
Yeah.
got a bullish upgrade. So like, is it to the point now where AI is going to be so big and chips are going to be so big that a lot of these companies are going to start coming out with competitors to what Nvidia is doing? It's one of those things. It's been enough, right? We're on what, year 2.5 of the whole AI trade. Maybe we start to see someone else saying, "Hey, I got a chip that works." Maybe Intel comes back from the dead. I don't know if that's a little bit too bold, but it's sitting right at a major support. So yeah, I think you want to find the theme. You look for the opposite of what happened to quantum computing, right? You want when the market sells, what are sectors that are doing well? What are sectors that are holding up? That will show you where the money is, because what happens with these large institutions, they're waiting for the market to sell, then they're putting the money to work, right? They're not buying as we're hitting new all-time highs. They're buying as the market comes back. So the two themes that I saw was energy and then again psychedelics. So things like USO broke out of this base and is holding really, really strong. We're up against this prior resistance. Could that be something that ends up moving higher? When it comes to UNG, right? Could UNG actually be holding up? It gapped down a little bit today. Looks like it's getting somewhat strong there as well. So let's take a look at what else is holding up. I think we have a frozen. No, there you are. think we lost you for a second there, Mitch.
No, I got you. I'm just I looked focused. I'm working in the background. That's what it is.
Oh, I got you. I'll keep going. I
One of
thought you
those-
were. I was watching you to see if you were blinking. You're working hard, man. You weren't even blinking.
Dude, yeah, I'm doing like layout changes right now on the fly, so you know how that one works there.
Yeah. No, I'll just
but hey,
keep ranting.
I got it, guys. I got it.
Go.
But yeah, I'm just trying to get in Steve, my man Steve, ready to go, ready to get after it. My man's getting. I love that he was hopped on yesterday. I know that you guys are enjoying having Steve on more, so we're gonna keep pushing it.
Yeah, we nerded out yesterday. We had nothing holding us back. We went hard, just lots.
Right?
And lots of
I wasn't here to hold down the nerds. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did Wyckoffs, and we talked about Dow theory. We just crazy. Yeah.
Love to hear it, man. You love to hear it, guys, and excited to do more, right? And I think that that's what it's all about, guys. So, and you guys out there, let us know what you guys want to see more or less of. That's what we're here for, guys, at the end of the day, right? I mean, we're here to help you guys continue to grow. What's up, Steve? It's good to see you, my friend.
Yo, what's up, guys? Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. It's great to have you back on. We'll see what we can come up with today. Make some money. So we're all looking for, and definitely, Steve, if you got anything you want to talk about, yeah, we can definitely get to it before the open. It's 9:22, guys. We got about just a little bit under 8 minutes now, 7 minutes left here. We'll be taking a look to see what happens in the market today. I've seen some Bitcoin names up. You mentioned that, Michael. We'll see if Bitcoin can get going. What do you guys feel about Bitcoin in 2025 and maybe the early part of the year?
For me, I think we're going to continue to chop, right? Everyone gets really, really excited when Bitcoin moves. I read a study somewhere that if you miss the 10 best days or the 10 best week in Bitcoin, it's down, right? So it just shows that it has this history, and you can go back on the chart to see it doing absolutely nothing and then just insane spikes out of nowhere, right? Where you know, double or triple or whatever, and then into a consolidation pattern. I think we're in that right now. Yesterday's action was super encouraging on Bitcoin, though. We flushed under these prior lows just enough to probably trigger a bunch of stops. Ripped. Kind of the same thing with the whole market. Undercut support shows me that there's probably some institutions out there that are looking for some liquidity. So they cut down some support. They got some people sucked in short. They got some trapped longs, you know, getting out of their positions, looking to get back in. We rallied yesterday. So far, we're having the follow through. And that's what a lot of people forget, I think, when they talk about these undercut and rally type situations. You need to see that follow through on the next candle or very shortly after it. Looks like, knock on wood, that we're getting that in Bitcoin. However, I just wonder if we're going to go back to the highs and do the same thing reverse. And we're just going to have this choppy pattern for kind of days or weeks or whatever. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, you know, that's kind of where I'm leaning to. I mean, for Bitcoin, it was one of my best trades last year because it was just that weekly or monthly cup and handle screaming at you, right? You know, from the 75K-ish, 79K neckline. And so for me, that was a 1.6 extension trade. I think it probably went to 2 straight up. But, you know, for me now we're in the basing zone. It does look good, but it's the big trade has been done for me. Now we can look to play this box, this range like we were talking about yesterday. But, yeah, you know, for the most part, it's not the most exciting sector for me. I'm looking for that next massive cup and handle, easy move, right? The next fat pitch, so to speak.
Yeah, so, and I think I actually have that drawn. I did. But yeah, this cup and handle, this was glorious. And this is kind of very typical.
More coffee.
And this is right. Go right back to, again, William O'Neill, How to Make Money in Stocks. Epic book, must read. But yeah, your cup and handle patterns are huge. You had this massive cup, 7-8 months, I think, of just chopping here. This is what I'm talking about with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you were playing it, you were trying to catch every little breakout, you had a really bad time. If you just waited for a nice momentum break, a lot of volume behind it, you did very well. And actually, gold had the same thing.
Yeah,
dude,
that was the other one.
I needed to do the Beckham, man. I needed to tell Michael that I wanted to get paid in Bitcoin. That's what I should have been doing, man. What's going on, guys?
Missing out.
Missing out, bro. Maybe
second
I
you
just
do
get
that,
paid in
let me know.
Solana.
I was about to say, once you start that, let me know. Wasn't that the when Beckham did that? Wasn't that the top or near the top.
Pretty
Yeah, it
close.
was. He went in hiding for 2 or 3 years, and then he busted out a tweet like, "Oh, you see Bitcoin now?"
That's not how this works.
Yeah, no, I love when you see that where it's
Hey,
it's like we talked about this morning when the
when you
bears
have
get
millions
quiet,
in the
right?
bank, I mean, why not? Millions investment, right? I mean, I can't blame the guy. I can't blame him. It was a cool thing to do, right? I mean, he wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only athlete that ended up taking their money in Bitcoin. It's an interesting conversation, though, overall. I mean, think about this in the long run. Do you think that would ever catch on, maybe? If we keep seeing Bitcoin, like, maybe go and, just throwing it out there, 1 million, right? I mean,
Hey, Mitch, countries are doing it, right? We have
yeah,
there are more countries talking about making it.
I mean,
base.
our country's talking about it, right? I mean, so, I mean, hey, just think about it, guys. Just think about it, right?
But when the gold was reserved, were people out there getting paid in gold? Were you like, here's your gold bar for the, I don't know, like, why wouldn't you just take the cash? And if you want to buy Bitcoin with it, buy Bitcoin. Like,
yeah, now that's one thing I would say, that if you're a Bitcoin fan, maybe just stick to Bitcoin itself, right? I think that's the thing that I start seeing a lot of people get a little too, what I call getting pretty with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to get pretty with it all the time, man. Sometimes it's just good to just buy the actual thing, right?
A lot of people got pretty with it on Ethereum and just watched Bitcoin double on them, That's no fun. It's already speculative enough.
I think that has to do with all the assets tied to it, right? I think that's what it has to do with it. That's why I think, honestly, personally, I still like Solana, but we won't talk about that. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to it, guys. AUR is on my radar today, and that's an autonomous play that has pulled back. I'm watching Mobileye. I'm watching Tesla. That's all a part of that trade, right? Tesla's pulled back here. A lot of talk on Elon going to go buy TikTok. I don't know if that's good for Tesla or bad for Tesla, but we'll be watching it because I think it'll move based on that, right? And I think that's interesting to see it. But of course, Tesla's setting up here. It doesn't look too bad. I see that trend line trying to come back. I mean, we had some pullback. Now I think what Tesla needs, honestly, is something new to kind of make it run, because right now it's just running on thoughts of autonomous coming fast, right? The next catalyst, what can it be there?
All right, so I'll just go because I know we're opening soon. I have been
what
working,
you got, my friend?
Because I've been working hard because I've been sucking at this whole day trading thing. So one thing that I've been doing, I went back. You see, before I had 4 strategies, now I have 2. Simplified it. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I trade the pool. You can short whatever you want. So I'm going to be focusing heavily on the short side. So these are 2 short strategies that I've been tweaking with. I'm actually going to give the symbols to you guys, because now that I've really reduced it. Like when I went in there before, I think part of the problem was with the first account, I was trying to do too much. There was maybe 10, 15 symbols coming through every day. I didn't have time to study them. I didn't have time to kind of do what I do best, which is the analysis. This, I'm thinking 5 symbols will be about the max that'll get spit out every day. So again, these are the 2 strategies. This back testing it all the way to the year 2000. So there's definitely some edge here. And I'll just give you the 2 symbols so we can do a little analysis on this right as the opening. VRME, verify me. This was up huge yesterday. So like me and Steve were talking about yesterday, that I really wanted to filter to like the biggest, craziest guys out there. So we're looking to short both of these. Either a breakthrough $4 for a short, or if we get up to 6. Those are the 2 levels that I'm going to watch based off these 2 systems, right? One's an overextension move. The other's a pullback move. The other one here is STIM. And what we're looking for on this one is we're looking for it to pull back up to 250, which again, if we zoom out, is a little bit of a zone here, and fail there. So maybe that's just a segment we'll start doing a little bit earlier, give you guys some time to keep an eye on it while I'm playing these systems. You see, I got the paper trader up here. I'm going to paper trade for a little bit before I go back with the tail between my legs and say, hey guys, can I have another account? Because I'm really bad at this. So, and I suggest you guys do the same, right? Paper trade a little bit when you have a strategy that you're comfortable with, then right, go to trade pool, which I think is the next level up from paper trading. This gives you a little bit of skin in the game. So VRME and STIM are the 2 ones that I'm going to keep an eye on based off of all this work that I did. And I'm not done. You can probably see the bags under my eyes because I was up a bit last night, but we'll watch we'll see how I did. We'll continue to watch these. Just looking at the
Let's
SPY
do
right
it.
off the open, we're kind of smack dab in the middle. This candle right here was the PPI candle. Just like we need to see some resolution, I think, one way or another to get super excited to say, yeah, this is something that's going to break us out.
Oh, sorry, not to interrupt, but just to let you know, I'm leaning towards a little bit of a flush action here for open on SPY. I'm watching 582.20 to catch here. I did take a little short scalp, which I'm currently in. I'll be stopped out if it goes over high a day there. Just looking for a real quick flush down. I'm also seeing strength and energy here. So it's not looking like a tech up day quite yet to me.
Yeah, leading the market today, basic materials, industrials, and utilities from the open, then consumer cyclical. Energy up also. What's down? Communication services. That's the only thing in technology, almost neutral, 0.04.
And I'm very interested in copper here for a swing. I took it overnight. I'm up 20% on just some little options here, but I'll be looking for a nice swing spot here if it does stick this move.
Yeah, I'm looking at maybe watching to see what happens in steel today. Steel Dynamics, Cleveland Cliff, names that we'll definitely be watching. I think right now they're on that kind of red to green action, so we'll look to see if they can catch like hourly supports from yesterday.
Absolutely. And I'll be waiting for my scanner to start popping off. Hopefully seeing some follow through in these names I'm watching.
So yeah, STIM here, right? When we're just watching this pre-market zone, right? Just to see maybe we break through 2. Maybe that's a little bit of a flush trade there. Again, the idea behind this one is that this is overbought on almost every metric that you can think of. And then yesterday had this really, really impulsive day. So the idea is that we kind of pick an area that we think that if it breaks, it could be interesting. $2 seems like a kind of a nice whole number. 250 was the zone that we want to kind of play against. So we never got there just yet. And then VRME is just stuck between the two areas that we're looking at, right? One being $4 and $6, right? It's between that. And same idea, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to find these guys that are just insanely overdone. And then looking for a little bit of a reversal to happen there just to see, hey, if we overextend to 6, maybe there's a shot there. Or if we break down this $4 area, maybe there's a shot there as well. So again, that's the systems as I'm tweaking them, trying to build up a little bit more of trying to take what I'm doing, I guess, more in the day trading side of things, where I do a lot of revision to the mean, to the long side, and looking for the short side. And I'm really excited to be a little bit of a short side trader as well, just because everything I do from the swing trading side of things is long. So it'll be interesting to have some short exposure or something that I can go to that kind of diversifies my portfolio of trading. Just kind of,
I agree. I think it's a good thing to look for. Definitely, it's a good thing to have up your sleeve, right? If days that you know where, hey, I don't look like I'm opening longs anytime today. Well, you got something to work with now.
So far, nothing on the SPY is the easiest way to look at it, right?
Utilities pushing strong now, leading the open. Utilities pushing strong today, so definitely seeing that nice little jump there. We'll see what happens on those names. Of course, those names aren't the sexiest, but XLU pushing to 75 there now, starting to push a little bit. We'll look to see if XLU can continue pushing there. There's a nice little lift there.
Spike calls coming in. Interesting. I might have to get out of this here.
One thing I'm looking for is the financial space to get hot. So JPM, one name that's pulling back right now that I'm looking at to see if that gets going. Cyclicals are doing well today also. That's a good sign there. To start seeing some cyclical names start to come back, and also technology. Red, healthcare, and communication services.
Yeah, I'm out of my puts. I saw that flow coming in, and it looks like the market's responding to the immediate little push there. So that's a reason enough for me to just see what's going on.
VST, this is more of a longer term one, but I actually just got triggered into some of this in my big boy long term portfolio. VST it was the strongest name in the S&P 500 when Mitch mentioned utilities. This is the one that I always think of, because this is a utility essentially entirely focused on the whole AI play. So you can think of this as both a utility and an AI name. So if AI is going to pick up a little bit, that's an interesting play there. And just a clean flat top break right? The beauty I love of these type of plays is that I'm going to be right or I'm going to be wrong pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
This is a swing trade. If I'm right, I'm looking to have this breakout hold, maybe hold it for days or weeks. But if I'm wrong, I'm going to be wrong pretty quickly. Any break kind of below this 155, 156 area, that's where I've put my initial risk. But if we just spend a couple days back below this line, I think it's going to be time to go. But yeah, just wild that when I was doing my year-end research, just seeing this as a utility company, just insane chart, right? The idea is that if you had bought any all-time high breakout on this in the past, you did pretty well. So why not keep going back to that well until we get our hands slapped at least once or twice, right?
I agree.
Absolutely.
It's good to always take a haircut. I need a haircut right now, but not that haircut. All right, guys, watching to see if JPM can come back towards around 243.50s. I want to get JPM today. That's part of my playbook, but it's doing pretty well. The pullback was just slightly there to the VWAP around 243.80s. Was looking for 243s, already pushing towards a 245. Could see FAS as a trade also. Of course, leverage, financial, already starting to get them jump. And why is this, guys? I'm expecting this to get the jump ahead of earnings. So a lot of times traders jump on these trades before the earnings comes, and I'm watching the banks to do that today. So Bank of America, Citi, Wells Fargo, all names that I'm looking at right now. Of course, I'd rather be in the best of breed, which is JPM, but that doesn't mean that I can't trade any of the global banks today. I think they're all looking interesting here. We'll see if they start to get the nice push.
FAS, that brings me back, man. That was when I started day trading initially was 2008 or 2006 to 2008. That FAS and FAZ, that was trading was simpler back then during the financial collapse. You'd load up FAZ, and if it broke to new highs that day, you would just punch in, use the high of the day, the stop, because these things were just every day just falling. You could get these massive risk reward gains out of it. So great trading vehicles, right? Not something you want to hold for incredibly long periods of time. But I know people who just exclusively trade these triple leverage ETFs. That's all they do. FAS, FAZ, TZA, TNA, all these leverage vehicles are great ways to kind of express these themes.
Watching to see if some gold can pull back today. Gold, it's starting to get a little bounce there. Basic materials, we'll see if they bounce now. They pulled back a significant amount here. Leading is utilities, cyclical, and now technology. Quick move up there in tech. So you're definitely starting to see some tech move come in here, led by some solar action. Of course, solar tells me that it's momentum on those techs getting a nice little jump. We'll see if those can keep pushing. Software applications doing well today, electronic components, computer systems. So pretty good day so far in technology, getting a nice little bounce back in some names.
Yeah, if this bounce holds, I'm maybe trying a long. Ooh, did I just miss it? I might have just missed it. Ooh, big wake up. I was looking for it there. I think if 585 can break, we get a clean move to 586 here to sweep out the highs pre-market. It's kind of the little scalp I would have been looking for. I'm not so sure. Taking it up into my bull shall not pass line here is a little bit sketchy, but it looks like if I had taken that, it would have worked.
Yeah, we've got a pretty clear resistance. So I'm just on the 5 minute right here. Pretty clear resistance zone. Yeah, around 585. So through that, I think you were mentioned 586. Right, that's that wick high from what the PPI or whatever event was happening today. So then again through that, who knows? But I'm overly bullish. I mentioned again this morning that I bought in my swing account everything. So
nice.
It's one of those things that with this undercut and rally, I really, really want to see fall through today, because that's one of those things that confirms either a bear or a bull trap. If you're playing against them, it's that follow through. If it just breaks through a little bit and then falls again, I'm probably going to exit everything that I bought and just raise a little cash. But if we can hold on today, ideally turn and close a little bit higher, I think that's what I need to see to say, okay, we really trapped some people down here over the last couple of days, and those people are going to be hurt. Whether it's they shorted or whether it's they stopped out of positions and now they're looking and seeing their positions kind of way higher.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I wasn't convinced yesterday that we were bottoming. I wasn't like 100% this is bottoming behavior, but it left the door open to possibility for me where like if we do just burn up out of this and just rip all the shorts, I'm fine with that. I what I was a little bit hesitant on is also what was coming up on my scanner wasn't tech. And, I didn't take any of the hood calls I was going to because, I was seeing FCX, I was seeing DBN on my scanner. I wasn't sure that the party's over for those. And I'm still not. I'm up on those calls and they seem to be working now. But sorry, I got a cat on my desk here. but I think we could be seeing a broad-based like everything rally here off the bottom. Because what do you say when you're everything is up? I'm looking at the sectors here and it's party time. So
that's it.
I'm ready. We're gonna just rip out of here.
Yeah, getting that bounce, right? I'm seeing bounces all around, and I think that's what we're seeing now. The question is, which one's the dead cat, right? And you guys just saw that Steve Cat, so there you guys have it. Which one's the dead cat there? And I think that's what you got to be looking at right now. And if you are playing some of these that you feel maybe it won't get back to the highs, but I'm just going for quick plays. Remember that, right? Quick plays right now is not a bad way to think about it too, because you are seeing momentum moves up. But like we talked about, there's shorters waiting up there to get those bounces to start getting heavy. That's why you got to look also at the order forms and the order books, right? And understanding that, hey, there could be a iceberg order that I'm not seeing right there that I'm running right into, right? And so things like that, look out, understand order form. We're going to be kind of reaching out to the people at Bookmap to be kind of talking a little bit more about this. I know Michael knows about this. Steve can bring in some conversation. It's going to be really cool, guys. We're going to keep pushing this year. So watch out, guys. All right, guys, it's almost 10 a.m. At 10 a.m., we're going to play a little game, guys. We're going to do a segment today called Chart of the Day Contest. This is where I will be giving you guys 2 or 3 charts to pick from, and you guys will tell me which chart Money Mitch will trade. I'll pick the charts. You guys go and tell me which one of the 3 you guys want me to trade, right? And you guys can throw up long, short. It's not necessarily about that. I'll decide if I go long or short it, but we'll go based on the charts so that you guys get to have some fun and call the shots also. So look forward to that. That's starting up at 10 a.m. And then at 10:30, we're going to dive deep into PPI. Everything you need to know about it, how you could use it, an example, maybe even a situation like we're going through right now with energy rising. So stay tuned for that, guys. Let's keep it moving. Let's see what we can come up with today.
Well, we got, let's just get to this chat. We got Kevin looking at what's JCPR or JPCR long-term now.
Okay.
I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but that is an ugly looking chart. So that's not something that I'm particularly would want to buy here. When I look at something like that from 100 works its way down to 25, I just always think the market knows more than I do. That there's some reason that this thing is caught under a level. I think if you wanted to get involved, you got this $33 area. I think that's the number, right? If you can get above, you get through $33, maybe you got a shot there because now you've got all these people covering. But when I see something like this, all I see is bag holders, right? People who got involved and they're stuck. And what happens is you get a lot of bag holders on every pop. You have a sell-off. And the perfect example of this is always the meme stocks. Right? Every pop that AMC will do kind of until the end of time will get sold into because there's people in this thing from $600 a share and it's at $350, right? So every pop that happens, there's going to be sellers. And so that's why for me personally, when I see this guy, I don't know if you guys see any different. I just say, hey, they got a lot of overhead here that I'd have to get through before it'd be interesting to me at all.
Long Bank of America here, guys. I couldn't get the best of breed. I got the one I hate, but I'll go for it. Bank of America here. So going long it here, just based on kind of the VWAP kind of recovery here. We'd like to see it hold 9 EMA. That's towards the 41. So it's just like a little pullback here. But really what I want to see is JPM not even pull back to the VWAP and just take off towards 246. Start the leader and start to get that going. Then I'll be watching FAS to break the high here and keep going through that 146.50. We'll see what happens there for the financial space today. Of course, that's one of the areas that I'm watching. I'll let you guys know if I see any other big names making a move there. Let's go. Taking a little trade there. 500 shares long, right? The thing about Bank of America, doesn't move much, so I have to kind of go a little bit bigger. But what I like to do is catch the financials when they run, right? And so here is one of those times where I'm just looking to see if we can get a continued rally. Let's see if we could get it.
I have Palantir calls and Q calls on my scanner here, so do with that what you will.
Kramer ruined that Palantir, man.
He ruins a lot, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
Dang, he put out that 100 call. He said, "Oh, it's going to go to 100." I was like, "Okay, yeah, it's never going to 100." That's it. It's done.
Yeah,
She's
over.
dead to me now.
Yeah,
Well, I'm watching
with those puts off of the 580 handle. Pretty strong response there.
Yeah, Qs are battling right now. You can see it right in the middle, right there. What is it on the hourly chart? It looks like a wick. It looks like a big old doji. That just tells us right now we're definitely having that inner battle. SPY taking a quick move down there to 583, trying to wash out some bulls here. Let's see how much it goes down. The SPY went quick.
If they start hammering those calls again, I might slurp some up because this is starting to get interesting. Huh.
So I've got VRME here. This was one of the ones, again, from the algos that I'm working on for potential short. Originally it was through $4, but again, what I like about the changes that I made, and we'll do a whole thing on this, I'm sure, on the channel about, making sure your system works with your personality, is it gives me more time to kind of analyze these as they come, as opposed to the other ones were just kind of rapid fire, shooting symbols at me. So for me, I'm kind of modifying the plan a little bit. It was supposed to be a breakthrough $4. I'm looking for 15 or so, right? We had the low here in the post market. We had the low here in the pre-market, and then we're putting in a little bit of a low here today. So I've got an order loaded up so that if it breaks through there, that's going to be the short. I'm going to put my stop the high of the day, and that'll be the trade. STIM still just flirting around this $2 area, and that's what we're watching there. If it gets up to 250, that's going to be kind of me wrong on the positions. Time to move on. But yeah, so those are the two plays. This feels to me, even though we only have 1 day of data, this feels to me a little bit better of kind of a trading style, just because I'm able to do that slower analysis, which I'm much better at than just kind of rapid fire looking at different names.
Eli Lilly getting whacked today, guys. His healthcare name really getting hit hard today, guys. Down to 737. This just shows us Eli Lilly taking a little bit of some price loss, not weight loss there, but definitely taking a big hit. Price loss took its own medicine. I heard.
Expects revenue. Yeah, they guided down. That was the problem.
It's not looking good in the healthcare space overall today. I mean, you got Moderna guiding down. You got different names just starting to take it. Oh, look at the whacking. This is definitely a hard hit there in healthcare today. Biogen getting hit hard. A couple names down over 1%. Amgen now close to 2% down. So these stocks had a lot of love in 2024. Not looking good in 2025.
Well, and it's more of this revision that we talked about earlier, Mitch, where we were looking at this heat map, and for the last week or so, we were seeing energy on it being strong, and we were seeing technology and healthcare technology being weak and healthcare being strong, and now we're seeing the flip, right? WGMI is still leading. Block, which is another data center ETF, that's doing well. At the bottom here, we have IBB, so there's your biotechs. We have, Crack, Boat, which is a shipping ETF, DBC, which is commodities. Again, the great flippening of tech is back in favor, at least for today, and healthcare and a lot of these more boring names are kind of flipping out of that as well, where, again, things were super interesting and now not so much. So, this is the thing. These rotations happen fast. They happen aggressively, so you need to make sure you're kind of staying on target with them. So XLV again might be out of favor. We might be going back into, let's start looking at tech. Let's start looking at ARC. Let's start looking at things like Tesla. It's a really nice looking chart today. I saw that when Mitch brought it up. We can close above this trend line, or at least get this afternoon above this trend line. I think I already own some, but I think I'm going to add to some of my Tesla position.
I'll tell you what supports that today, at least, and I talked about it, the theme of autonomous. Look at Mobileye getting a nice little jump today. I saw AUR getting some volume. That's a theme that I could see staying, right? I am long here, guys. Clean Spark on the other smaller account here, guys. So going a little bit into kind of the, of course, into the crypto space here. So got some Clean Spark there, guys. I got 1078 on the pullback right there below the VWAP. This is that undercut and rally type look where you cut the VWAP the third time. Now I'd look to see it hold VWAP from here. So now that you've undercut it 3 times, don't undercut it again, because that's the breakdown in my eyes. Now maybe a throwback look makes you get it back towards like maybe around 1080s here, but looking for a push towards 11. Let's see how much it wants to run today and how much these want to take the move. Another thing that I saw was kind of MSTX making a big jump. So of course you guys know that's leverage outlook. I could see that on my radar and scanners here. You can see the gainers and losers showing up there. So took a shot here in Clean Spark.
A leveraged Ponzi scheme. This is the first time in history that you've been able to leverage out a Ponzi scheme. This is going to be.
Actually, I think Herbalife was one of those, but we won't get into it.
Yeah. Oh, that's I think there's a documentary on Prime.
It was a stock, right? I mean,
oh, it was an epic battle between Carl
Acton,
Icahn and
it was Icahn and Acton, right?
Trust me, I got it. It got pitched to me plenty of times. And once you start telling me that I got to build a team and have my own employees, yeah, I know what that scheme is like.
So here's where I'd be starting to want to see a response on SPY. It could go down to 582, but oh yeah, wow, pretty heavy.
Oh yeah, that's a little break there. So we came up to that prior resistance. We failed at that. Now we're at this little support here. It looks like for now we're failing at that. Just an update on this guy. I actually just for fun drew a VWAP on the beginning of yesterday's action that had this crazy action. That also lines up right here at this 416. So that's my game plan. I think I'm just going to put a resting order and say, hey, if you break that low, get me in, put a stop loss at the highs. That trade will just be over and done with. And then again, this STIM, I'm just in this name, and we'll see what happens there. Again, these are just paper trades on this back test that I run, but SPY is accelerating here to the downside a bit.
Yeah, this is where I'd like to see a real response off of the 582 and just a little bit further down. DVN, my energy play is popping nicely, so that's not good for tech probably, but let's see if the tech can hold this. We're still kind of seeing the PPI, thing play out here, I figure. So watching the, now it's diving for that gap up. If it doesn't hold the gap up, then I think we're probably going to flush it.
So one interesting sign that I'm seeing in the market, I'm seeing US steel up a pretty good amount, yet all the other steel players have pulled back here. So I'm thinking about maybe taking a play into those steel names for hourly long pullbacks. I talked about this right before the market and right when the market opened. Steel Dynamics, nice hourly long pullback to support. Nucor, nice hourly long pullback to support, right? So I'm looking at those as an attempted trade because X is up also. X is pushing to 37. Why are the other ones pulling back? That's what I'm thinking here. So I'm looking into that trade.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a tariff thing. I guess you'd need to know each of these companies and whether or not they're where they get their steel from, what the income is on it. But yeah, it seems like that's all that the whole world seems to care about right now is they want some resolution on
the thing is
tariff.
Yeah, and the steel part is it plays into so many industries, right?
Yeah.
Autos, construction, right? I mean, the list goes on and on, right? What doesn't use steel, right? I mean, just think about it, right? And so that's the hard part there is that it has such implications on the market. And we all know how Trump has played pretty hardball on steel tariffs in the past, right? And he's, really a proponent of not letting X become a Japanese company. So we'll see what happens there, man. X getting a little bit of a lift there. Can it take 37? We'll see what happens. I added on Bank of America there, guys. Now have 45.39. Looking to see if the banks are going to come back here. JPM just sticking around. Honestly, I wish I had JPM. That's what I wanted. Maybe should have just gone for the best of breed, but it's making the move that I'm looking for. A high day attempt here. Let's see if it breaks 246.
We are getting
with the steel names as well. I don't know if you saw, but there was news on the X deal, and it sounds like Nucor and CLF are going to make a deal together, a cash deal in the high 30s, I believe. And the idea would be that CLF would instantly sell off one aspect that was a problem from an antitrust component to Nucor. So I think Nucor might be the ones to watch in that transaction.
It's the best of breed, right? It is the best of breed, at least in steel. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, and that explains a lot of that too, right? Quite often you want to buy the acquired and you want to short the acquirer.
Right.
But if that's still one of those hasn't been confirmed in rumor things, and there still could be wicked snapbacks in both of those when it happens. Got, from Steph in the chat there talking about Rigetti.
Steph is always on top of it. Rigetti's doing well. How's it looking?
Bounce, little bounce here. Still inside yesterday's range. We were talking about dead cats earlier. I wonder if this is the beginning of that potentially, that we're going to get this bounce that could potentially fail. I think the anchored view app from the all-time high on this one could be an interesting play if you are looking to get involved to the short side, or even if you're looking to get involved to the long side. You'd want to see a break of that, because this just shows the sentiment of what happens if you started to buy at the worst possible time, which was the high of these names. I would expect to see potentially a bounce to there, a failure to flush lower. But if we do get above that anchored view app, that could be a little bit of a play as well. But to me, again, it's like we talked about in the pre-market, Mitch, that these guys who are short, they got to take their money at some point, right? It's no good having a paper
quick
short, right? So
I see that stock jumping real quick. They're like, whoa.
Yeah, get me out, get my money in, and then they'll probably look to reload lower, right? Just like we do when we're day trading. A lot of people think these funds are so much different than us. They're not. They're just bigger, right? So if they shorted when Jensen made his thing and they got 3 or 4 days of trade out of it and 50% gain, they're looking to lock that in. They might still be looking to short, but they're not going to be shorting in the hole, was the old saying, right? You don't want to short in the hole.
Going for the 506, guys. We're seeing a little bit of a now down take again, and a lot of this being led by NVIDIA, almost 2% down already, down to 133s, guys. And all those people that bought off of the media pushing those graphic chips on Tuesdays, the 7th. Well, there you guys have it. That's what happens a lot of the times when you are the one reading the news and don't know about the company. I think that's exactly what happened here in NVIDIA. I mean, these chips were all expected, all known. The only difference that was mentioned was that they had the Blackwell architecture, and that helped it, right? That gave the mentality that, maybe these graphics cards are good enough for AI and you can build AI on them. Yeah, that's going to be a positive in the long run, but that's something that's going to develop in the long run. Nothing that's like just going to give the stock another 20, 30, 40 bucks. And I think that's how people were reacting when they saw that. I think you just keep watching for the Blackwell chips overall, right? And see what's going on there, because that's more important to me than the graphics cards. The graphics cards are going to come out every year, guys. Right. And so that's just going to keep coming out. Right. That's just like a kind of like an iPhone. Right. It's going to keep coming. It's how much they sell it that matters. Right. And so we'll see what happens there, guys. NVIDIA now down to 133.
And it's just such a tiny part of their business now, right? Making graphic cards for gamers. It's just such it's not.
It was 81% of their revenue is now coming from AI or something like that. It's some crazy number.
It's one of those things that you wouldn't be shocked in a year or two if they just say, listen, we're going to leave that. We're going to leave the gamers to AMD and that kind of thing. And we're just going to focus on our data centers exclusively. If the chips get so hard in demand, they're going to have to, right? Because you're going to make so much more money slapping a card in a data center than you are making stuff for gamers, right? Because just the margins are not there. One of them you sell once, you make your money, you move on. The other with the data center is a recurring revenue source, right? So again, they have their business, right? So they may abandon that entirely. We did get this VRME that triggered short as well. So now I've got kind of both positions on, and part of this is now going to be hands off, let them go, right? The back tests go till the end of the day. I don't think I'll probably hold them that long, but I need to come up with more of an intraday trailing method. So that, again, this is just day one of just playing. The idea is, the way I'm thinking about it is, before I build many different strategies the way I did before, get a little bit overwhelmed, I want to focus on one or two. I want to really hone those two in. I'm going to be spending a lot of my time off stream just back testing and building out these strategies, a lot of my time on stream trading them. And then once these are very much refined and I can pass a challenge with them, then it will be time to kind of build out new strategies, right? Just so you guys can see the process behind this. It comes from idea generation to back testing to now what they call in the industry forward testing, which makes no sense to me. It's just paper trading, and then off to
forward,
real
bro.
money.
Come on.
It makes it sound so official, though. We're just testing. We're
Forward
just
testing.
scientists.
Yeah, forward testing.
Hey, I always say trading is a scientific method just put into play, man.
I like that.
It is, man. When you think about it, I mean, it's very much like that. If you view trading like a science, like scientists view like theories, that's what it is, guys.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what happens.
Well, same thing with my model, right? Is my models. I build the models and then I go, okay, now I'm going to try to break them, right? Just like you have a hypothesis and you don't try to prove that what I'm coming up with these models is right. I'm trying to disprove them. Right. I'm trying to say what happens if I do wrong. And then, so if these hold up for a week or so into paper trading, I'll hop back in with another trade the pool account, and then we'll give another shot, right? And then we just can kind of continue to go from there.
All right, guys. So right now I'm looking into sectors overall, right, for the day. This is just showing the day's action, right, on a 5-minute. You can see the utilities going back for the highs. You can see the basic materials going back for the high, led by silver, lumber, and building materials. Gold starting to move its way up that chart, just to notice that, right? Industrials now starting to go back to the high. We've talked about certain names there, but I'm seeing a lot of volume going into the airlines. And then if I take a look here, I see some airports, air services moving higher. So definitely some volume going in there. I saw DAL had some pretty good volume, UAL also, but love getting hit, of course, with the news that they put out there. Wasn't the best there. Industrial space, I take a look at like CAT and names like that. Financial services now going for that move. I'm looking to see if JPM can break the high. Went right towards 246 there. Got to a high there of 245.56. Let's see if it takes the 246 now and starts to make the move. Energy trying to bounce, but not really giving the bounce as much there. And then what's in the red? Technology and healthcare from the open. We'll see what happens if those names could bounce back.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on SPY here off of this 580-250. That's basically hourly rising support for me, and it is responsive still. I am still seeing weight every time it interacts with shorter term moving averages. So I think that we're still in the kind of chopping out of bottom phase, but I'd like to see some response here. If we don't hold here, then we've got some room below, and that's not actually be looking short, but yeah, then we're talking down to 79, potentially down to 75-ish.
Got stopped out on Clean Spark. Just to let you guys know, $60 loss on the small account, but it's right back up. It got me right near the bottom there, 1063. So just want to give you guys the outlook on that. We'll see what happens if Clean Spark goes right back up. It just got me on that. And that was one of those where like I was in my other account and I might have been just stop hunted, right? I don't show my hands often, but if I'm not watching a position, I'm showing my hand, right? And so it got stopped out there at the 1063, 400 shares of Clean Spark. We'll see if it goes right back up.
What I'm watching here, I think is interesting.
Good, moving well. Just to mention, platform Hood moving well.
Yeah,
Good.
it's fine.
So SPY under today's low. Look at RSP, which is the equal weight, right? So it just takes out all the big tech names and just says, okay, what's the average stock doing? We're at highs today. So RSP doing way better than the SP 500. Again, just showing that this rotation of out of technology into some other things, this is still going on. Didn't look like it this morning, but we're definitely seeing something else lift the market because, again, the SPY is just not doing anything.
This is a good day for my system as well because I'm learning a lot. Those 0 DTE calls that I mentioned, those were sells. I didn't have a chance to actually look at the bid versus ask, but I mean, just going by price action, clearly those orders came in, and then the market was not looking to do that. And then the same thing with Palantir. I actually saw 70 calls coming in, then it dropped. Then 69 calls came in, it dropped. 68 calls came in. So they're basically just collecting premium on a stock that's overshot, I'm pretty sure. It's gapped up too much. I'm going to sell calls into this. It's not going to run to 70. But then again, here's SPY power candling the whole time I'm talking. So I should probably wait until the session's over to really analyze too much. But it's interesting seeing price react immediately off of big orders.
All right, FAS breaking the highs there. Now looking for this Bank of America to really start getting going here, guys. So I waited out the pattern now. Now I have that kind of nice little bottoming recovery of the VWAP. What I'm looking for is the big boys to kind of lead there. JPM through 246, FAS high today. So FAS high a day, already doing it towards 147. That's looking decent for me. Now I'd take a look to see if JPM, and just to throw one to my man Michael. What about the TD Toronto, baby?
That has been the dog of our whole financial sector for a long time. They got their hand caught in the cookie jar a little bit, doing some not doing your client stuff correctly. Yeah, it's been.
What about the gap play here? There's a gap to the left, and it doesn't look too bad to maybe see it fill. I don't know. It doesn't look too bad. Been seeing a lot of gap fill plays a little bit, but like you said, TD probably not the best a breed in the global banks, but we'll see what happens there.
And not even the best would be Canadian, right? CIBC is one that's doing well. BNS, my hometown, Nova Scotia, doing a little better.
There you go. There you go. That's not a bad one, right?
Yeah, BNS doing okay. So yeah, some of these Canadian banks are doing okay. TD has just been they got in trouble. Just like the SEC, you don't want to mess with down here. You don't want to mess with the CRA and everything up here, and that's what they started doing. So this RSP versus SPY is just super interesting to me because now we're breaking highs on the RSP. So thing is moving strong.
Impressive, honestly.
WGMI 7% breaking out to new highs here. So this is the Bitcoin mining sector. Looks like things are really moving. We got Bitcoin nearly 97,000. So we're creeping back towards that $100,000 a coin, right? Just again showing that this little washout, bear trap, scoop and score, whatever you want to call it, they're got a lot of people. That's okay. That's okay by me.
Clean Sparks hits 1098 there, guys, right towards that 11. That's what I was looking for in the smaller account. Wasn't able to nail it on that one, but there it is, closer towards 11 now on Clean Spark. And you can look around BDT, DR. I mean, my scanner is just showing me a bunch of those names, right? So you got even RCAT having a decent day today. So we're getting those bounce backs of the beaten down name, right? Now the only question is which ones will have maybe an actual bounce where it continues, and which ones are going to be the quick ones to play. Joby showing up, Riot with volume, right? I mean, I'm just looking here, and this is a scanner that's more on volume surge just for today. Like, what is surging in the volume today? Riot definitely showing up there. So taking a look at some of those actions, it's a nice push.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'm looking at a lot of the names that I saw gapping up pre-market. They've given them that. That's a little sussy, but
yeah, I think the Qs are trying to come and start taking a little bit of a lead here. Let's see if it can actually do it.
Yeah, pretty strong reversal, right? We came right to the gap on the Qs. filled the gap almost to the tick, and then they started buying it. That to me is very, 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 very strong. Just showing that people, there's some fund, there's something that was very just waiting in the wind, saying, you got to imagine a lot of people don't focus on a long squeeze, right? You don't hear that very much, but that happens way more than a short squeeze. And what's happening is that if I'm an institution and I'm not beating the S&P 500, I better get my arse in gear, right? So if I got stopped out of everything because we undercut that support, and I don't change my mind quickly and start buying when the market starts rallying, my clients are going to go somewhere else, right? If I can't beat the S&P 500, then they're just going to they're going to come to me, they're going to call me. I've seen this. Why don't I just put my money in SPY, right? The rate is way lower than you're charging with hedge funds and larger institutions. So you get these long squeezes that happen sometimes where people either get stopped out of positions or whatever. And then if you reverse quickly back above that support, you have these funds going, oh crap, I'm going to get fired if I don't start buying things and buying them aggressively.
And it leads to obviously extra volatility, but extra like price expansion in the ranges too. Like there's the whole system is financially incentivized to cause these kind of wild swings because it offers more opportunity to smart money and to people trading algorithmically. So it's man, I'm just watching all tech just scream here. It's actually really impressive. So maybe that was I'm thinking about those calls. Maybe they were just smarter than me and more patient than me. They said, hey, maybe we do reject here, but I know where we're going.
Yeah, getting a nice little lift on that Bank of America, guys. I'm going to be setting up in a little bit for the chart trade here, guys. So I'll be looking around and throwing up some charts in just a second. There'll be a poll in the chat for all our YouTube viewers. So if you're not on YouTube, that's the place to be, man.
Yeah, the stuff that I'm doing from the algo today, not really moving, which is, I think, positive because with the market popping up, right, these things that I'm both short on are just hanging out, SVRME and STIM. So it's encouraging, right? It'll be something I'll add into the journal and work on the algo tonight. But if I'm starting to look here at this heat map, right, I always have this up somewhere. Even when I'm done here, I'm kind of not looking at the market, working on other things. This always just kind of stays up on the corner of the screen somewhere. It just reminds me this has been super green all day. So as bearish as I kind of want it to get at all, I would just look at this and go, nope, right? If most sectors are higher, especially being led by things like WGMI, I shouldn't be aggressively shorting the market until I start to see this turn red. Down here we have consumer staples, right? We have their biotechs are still down, and then a lot of oil, right? So USO, UNG, a lot of these things that were doing fantastic in the last few weeks. Microcaps, for some reason, can't get going. So everyone knows the IWM. Not a lot of people know the IWC. These are the little guys. They're trying, but they're just not able to get going. So a lot of these little guys are going to be, if you can't even make it to the IWM, you're a pretty speculative type of company, right?
That's Bush League there, but yeah, it's a good chart to watch for sure. You can also watch CAP, the high quality stuff. The stuff that's trading over 200 day or profitable, whatever the metric is.
Oh, small cap cash cows. Interesting. Never saw that.
Yeah, that's a nice one to actually invest in if you're a masochist like me and like small caps, but don't want to get beat up quite as bad, Well,
yeah, everyone knows the IWM, but what is it? The S&P 600 is, the same kind of thing where it's trying to say, hey, let's just take out the absolute junk and go from there.
All right, guys, let's start our first segment today. We're going to get into none other than this is where you guys choose the charts, guys. The chart of the day contest. You guys will see it in the poll there, guys. And I'll throw it up here on the screen just so you guys can see how the poll's adding up here. And the three options are Starbucks, AMD, and Tesla. So, of course, I'll show you guys AMD here at the bottom. We got Starbucks near the VWAP. And then, of course, we'll take a look at the dragon that is Tesla. So what do you guys think here, guys? Throw up the votes in the chat. This is only going to be in the YouTube side of things. Right now, 50-50. I'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes, and then I'll start to trade them, guys. We'll see what happens here, guys. Get your votes in. Get your votes in, guys. Tesla's trying to run away from me. We'll find out, guys. We'll find out.
Yeah, with the market ripping like this, you guys better hurry up because he's going to be buying. He's going to be buying a high.
The scalping here sooner or later. Having some fun time, guys. At least Bank of America is working well for me now. 45.50s, right? Looking for it to take the high of the day. The big thing, JPM still hasn't taken that 246. If it comes back to VWAP, I might need to stop out, break even, and reload. But if it breaks the 246, that's a good sign that we might get that continuation. Same with FAS through 147 here. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody heard me like audibly gasp like 4 minutes ago, but there was, I think I witnessed a crime on the tape here. We were trading right up into an old support level I had marked, and it instantly just power dumped. Like it power candled up and then just dumped right like 3 ticks under where that push started and just immediately wicked up again. So whenever that happens, I'm pretty bullish because somebody just got whiplash and a big order got sold and they said, no, we're not done. Unless they are, of course, and I get shown wrong in a minute here. But usually that tends to want to resolve up after they get the scared guy out.
After the big bear trap that happened yesterday, right? I would be shocked, especially now that we've held the gap. I'd be shocked if we don't make new highs, at least attempt to make new highs on the SPY here. I think I'd be pretty shocked because, yeah, it looks like we're getting real close there to the new highs.
All right, guys, 20 seconds, and I'm gonna cut the chart here, and it's looking like it's gonna be Tesla. So if you don't want it to be Tesla, get to voting. But there it is. It looks like it's going to be the Tesla Dragon. I'm going to have to slay the dragon today. So I put the big boy pants on. Get ready for this. Let's go, FAS. Let's go, JPM. I'll tell you what, since I'm going to be dealing with that trade, right? What makes sense here for me is I'm going to take some cash. So boom, just took some cash there, guys. Paid myself $100 there. And now can let Bank of America work without watching it, right? That's my biggest thing is now I can put a break even. Just let this work, right? See if I can get the high day break. That brings it to 45.69. I will take money into that 60 push and just probably take the money and run to the 65s. We'll see what happens with that. That'd give me a nice like $300 trade. We'll see what happens there, guys. All set up now. Let's go ahead. Let's end the poll there. We're ending it, and it's looking like none other than Tesla gets the win, of course. So Tesla it is. Let's go see what I can do here. So I see this as kind of like a VWAP throwback on the 5-minute. I always like to take a look at the 15-minute with Tesla because it likes to make the 5-minute approach and then come back on the 15. So what I'm going to look for here is an actual pullback closer towards the 9 EMA, 415s here, and then reversing right back. There it is, guys. That's the move right there. So now I'm going to start getting in here. I'm going to go in slowly here with Tesla, 10 shares at a time. I'm going to first just get a little entry starter there at the what I got there. We got the 415.43s. Now I'm trying to get 415s below that, right? So below entry on that. Let's see if I can get some ads and then just keep trying to add into that. I'm going towards like maybe 50, 60 shares because of course Tesla moves pretty quickly, about $4 in 2 minutes. So you got to be able to handle that, right? Let's see what happens, guys.
Just take 1,000. Just pop in 1,000 right now.
I've done 600 a Tesla here. I don't think I'm going to get to that point, but yeah, the 600. That was a pretty big take on my part. To tell you the truth, man, you probably wouldn't see that happen again. So we'll see what happens there. Even like 100 shares of Tesla, it's a good amount. I remember I made like close to $300 one time with just 10 shares of Tesla. So it was a swing trade, but I mean, dude, you know what I mean? 10 shares, dude.
The S&P 500's backing off a little bit from today's high. So I think that's really going to matter for your Tesla trade because, you know, they pick something that is a huge S&P 500 component. So, you know, this is another good chart to watch that If we don't get that push at all-time highs, then this thing may start to sell. But what I'm doing, I'm just anchoring a view app from the bottom, right? Instead of doing it from the beginning of the day, you just say, okay, right from this swing low that happened here, as long as we hold above that, I think it's good. I think you're good to go to long side instead of the short. Everything's kind of screaming higher today. The question is, we got a lot of wicks at this kind of 184, 185 area on the SPY. If that recovers, then I think your Tesla is going to be good here.
Yeah, I'm looking for the 416 now to show up again, and then I'll go ahead and I'll add and take the shot here, guys. So I'm not going to add until we get to that spot. It's on a stop trigger, right? So I'll show you guys this live from the charting right here. You guys can see it right on the screen there. So pulling in here the platform, so you guys can literally see the stop get triggered if it comes back to that level, right? So now I got to go ahead and establish what's the stop out on the downside, right? It's about $50, right? Something simple. The 413 area seems to make sense for me. So a lot of times the 413 seems to make sense for the risk. I'm going to put it slightly below that, Let's risk $60 here and see if it starts to come back through the 412. 62 would be that cutout. 413 touch is fine, but really looking for a recovery through that 416 and then a takeoff through the 420s here. Let's see what happens. 420, no pun intended, or pun intended. Haha. We'll see what happens there. Elon. I need the little meme, the little meme with Elon hitting the joint right now.
Well, you just need to start tweeting at them, right? Say, listen,
yeah, that's
I bought
that's
this thing, you know.
Bank of America trying to get for my highs here, guys. So look at this, guys. So you guys can see that I put out the order, right? I tell you guys how it is. The target right there, target profit in the 45, 65s, stop loss here. So this is when I get to a point where, would I be mad just taking it right here? No. So I'm going to raise this stop loss and kind of trap it inside of a ladder. Or a ladder approach. So the recent low was this 52. I'll put it right below that, right? Let's say 51. This sometimes gets the trigger where it comes back and hits me at 51. But at this point, I'm just trying to secure some cash here, especially when I have one trade in the red, right? Tesla, right? So this gives me the ability to stay in the green and making sure that I'm controlling my risk first, then looking for profit, guys. So let's see it, guys. 60s here. It can keep pushing. I usually throw it up to like 10 cents higher when I start to see this. So I don't want to show 65. I wanted to kind of go and approach that, and then I can pull the trigger back down or raise the stop loss. In this case, a lot of times I just raise the stop loss with it, right? So I'm just going to raise the stop loss to 45.55, securing me more cash as it keeps going. So I'm just looking for 62s to show up on the offer, and then I'll drop it right there. Drop the stop loss. Then I can just raise this up and kind of just drag it as it goes. As it keeps pushing on this momentum, I'll keep pulling the stop loss higher. Now I'm bringing it to the resistance, right? So now I'm just trying to kind of drive with the momentum. Go to 75s now. You see, now we're towards 68s. Now I can bring this right back up here towards where I wanted to get out, which was 65s. So now I'm just laddering and playing with the ladder. And at any time it pulls back, it just gets me out and takes the money. But I said 45, 65s was my target profit in the original. So that's where I'll put the stop loss right now and see if it wants to keep going, right? All right, let's go back to Tesla, see if that's starting to come back and work its way. You guys can see it went down there to the 413s, kind of held right underneath that. I think the low was there, 413.29s. So definitely don't want it through that 413. I take a look at this on the 15-minute, and you can see it's kind of just building on wicks on the bottom. Needs to go green there. Just got hit on that Bank of America. Take the money and run. That's what I like to do near the high of the day. And that's it, guys. Money. We'll take it. All right, guys.
I saw WFC calls on my scanner, but you were already taking profit on your, that was the pump, I'm pretty sure, that bank pump. So very nice.
Hey, I'll take what I can get there. The bank's not doing too bad today, guys. JPM was really my target on the playbook. We'll see if that can continue on the day. And this is just playing momentum into an area that I think traders will be watching tomorrow, where I think some of the smarter traders play it today, and then they'll wait a couple days tomorrow to let the earnings kind of lay to rest, right? We'll see what happens there, guys. All right.
Yeah, a lot of people taking big bets, right? A lot of into these earnings. They, that's when the funds, right? They're not going to buy after the earnings. They've got all these quants and nerds trying to predict what the earnings are going to be. So they're going to take their trade through it. That VWAP that I popped up on the SPY here actually held nicely. Undercut it a little bit. Now we're holding, right, using the anchored VWAP from the lows here. Looks like we're popping up here. So we'll just slap another VWAP here from the highs. You can see right at the same price. There's some, kind of algorithmic, I guess, congestion here for the S&P 500. So this is the zone that I think we need to hold, and that will really bode well for your Tesla. If we start to get a pop into new highs, then I think your Tesla is going to do fantastic. If this thing cannot hold right now, for those listening, is 183.66, call it 183.50. We need to see that hold on a 2-minute or a 5-minute basis or something like that in order to be interesting. But looking like a magnet for now anyway.
Yeah, we're just ping-ponging right in that congestion zone you're mentioning. I'm watching the 200-minute moving average, that 583.50 handle, if we can call it, just for the general directionality break. I'd like to see this be a higher low that's forming, although it's looking like it wants to retest and dig deeper. Guess we'll see how it plays out.
All right, catching some comments in the chat. What's going on, Eldon? How we doing? Good job. AMD support around 115.70. I got AMD on the watch. I feel like it's trying to stop out the bulls. I'm waiting for it to come back on the daily, especially. That's what I'm looking at, and I think it was a 136 level. But let me just confirm that for you. My big level to watch is 132. So there's been a couple of times that we've come back towards 132.32. 131.71. So get past that area. In between there, bunch of bulls are stuck. Now they're starting to wash out. I think one thing that tells me is the heightened volume from yesterday or the day prior on Friday. So that tells me a little bit of something that maybe these bulls are starting to get washed out, and now you can kind of get that undercut and rally. What I'd wait for is the momentum to actually show up first. Start showing me you're back towards 130, 132 with a lot of volume coming in, and the MACD recrossed over to the upside. So that's what I'm watching for there. What else is out there? Starbucks, they want to short it. Yeah, well, kind of hard for me to short it right now.
Look, I was about to say, right, we could all compare to the amount of money those guys get, right?
Yeah, they make some good money. I have an awesome espresso machine, but it's just on the sideline right now. So we'll get it running again, guys.
No, the amount of money I give them, I'm certainly not impressed with. So I need to. I'd short them just try to get some back.
Gotta make your own.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's part of the routine now. It's part of the routine now. Like every trader, right? We all need routines.
So we're not hold that area.
Yeah, not holding on. We're pretty well there. Even Tesla went right towards the level that was like towards the ad. I didn't even add because it just didn't move.
Yeah. But yeah, Starbucks, interesting, right? VWAP from this high. This was the high after the CEO got kicked out. What a kick in the pants, right? You get fired as the CEO, and it added like $2 billion worth of market cap in a single day. Grand up to this high, and then completely fell apart. So you slap a VWAP on that high.
Oh yeah,
we're right there. So might not be a bad short at all, right? If we start to reject at this anchored VWAP from this high, maybe it could be good to get.
You can also draw a fib on there, and it looks like eyeballing it, it's testing the 50 fib. There's another kind of just from the immediate high to the low that you anchored from.
Is that guy like that?
Yeah, just that guy there. Yeah,
it's about the same as well. So yeah,
dude,
some things going on here.
Fib ratios now, like show me anything, show me a mountain range. I'll be like, there's the 62 fib. It's a problem.
All right, guys.
But that's the good thing
add
about
on Tesla. Add on Tesla.
Tesla. Okay.
There you are.
I'm trying to add it off of this 15-minute low here area, looking to see if we can come back towards the VWAP, which is around 416.18, maybe 415.80s. If you're trying to be a little bit tighter on that, but let's see if it starts to get back. 416 is the area where I need to see it get back through if we're going to get the move today. So I think right now it's kind of like make or break it zone here. I added, and I want to stay tight to this area here. Let's see if we start to turn around. If not, I'll probably lose like $90 on it. All right, there's a cut down. There's a wash here. Let's see if it's a wick or recovery. If not, I'm getting out of Tesla here. Just cut through the low. Let's see if it recovers. If not, I'm out. Just set it on the low of the day right there at the 410.81. So if it hits me now, it'd go through that low of the day. Risking about 139 on this trade. And this was a chart that the chat picked, right? So let's see what happens. Did Mitch trade it well, or did he get caught? Got caught, baby. Got caught on that one. Cut out there on Tesla's down move. And we'll see if the Qs come back, right? The Qs went right back to the lows there. And we just didn't get the breakout that a lot of people, I'm sure, were looking for. So there it is. Now back down. Utilities, basic materials leading, industrials, and what's back dragging? Healthcare, especially down about 0.8 on the day.
Well, and we're seeing it there kind of with your Tesla trade, right? Because if we go to the SPY, we're still holding lows. So we're still holding lows in the S&P 500. If you go to RSP, which is the equal weight, right? So remove Tesla's gigantic weighting in there out, that's looking great, right? Pushing up near highs, nice base. So the average stock is doing very well. The S&P 500 is doing okay, but then your Tesla's hitting new lows of the day, right? Wicked into new lows there. Just showing that this rotation, this theme that we've been talking about for a while of, materials, industrials, energy, these are moving the markets. Because if tech is selling and the market's not, especially the RSP, which I focus heavily on, is doing okay, then that means kind of everything else is rallying, right? The big names are selling off, and then the whole rest of the world is doing well. So make sure you're expanding your horizon and saying, hey, I'm not going to be someone. I don't know why, but a lot of people out there will identify as, I'm a large cap technology trader or something like that. It's like, just don't, right? If we're going to be in a stage for the next bit where we get energy going, be an energy trader, right? Just be a trader and trade whatever's going on that day.
Yeah, I'm starting to see those names that were the kind of the dead cat bouncing, you can say, they're starting to get hit. Now I'm starting to see those names like QUBT going towards the lows there, now starting to get pulled back on. RCAT break even, QBTS, and all those names kind of starting to pull back off of their bounces. Now is when I think you'll find out if there's a bounce that's going to stick around here. IonQ down almost 3% tells me no bueno in quantum.
It's worth noting that the best things on my screen right now are the commodities and materials that gapped up and then came back down and kind of retested their gapping levels. So something to consider. I'm watching names like FCX and DVN. DVN's overextended right now, but there's definitely some juice left in these. I do believe if they can push off here.
Well, like the Jets ETF up 2% today, right?
Jets.
Can you help me figure out why that is? Because I'm thinking energy strong. How are Jets doing well? That's so strange to me. Is it like the travel trade or?
Yeah, it's a travel trade too. Jets has I think Trip in it. That's helping it out a little bit. But yeah, saw I think UAL, DAL getting a lot of volume today, so that's a telling sign. They're up right now too. Love is even starting to make a little bit of a move there. American Airlines also getting a nice little spike. That's a good one to see. That's one that I'd kind of keep an eye out because it's on the top end of the range and holding the 9 EMA. This seems to me like a classic kind of like trend trade that's on right now on American.
Yeah, we're seeing just a big move. This ETF for Jets. This is usually an awful industry to just be involved in, right? But it's doing amazing. And look, it's trying to break out. It had one day that it gapped up and then that faded. Now it looks like it's trying to go again. So if we can get a break here on Jets, this is really, really good. Now, full disclosure, I bought some from some of the swing trading systems that I've been running for years and years and years. UAL yesterday, that's doing fantastic. SKYW, WI, SkyWest. I hadn't even heard of this guy before, but picked up some of that yesterday. Just a handful of these different names that just came through as relatively strong, and just something that you don't usually see with the Jets ETF is relatively small. Oh, the other one, SNCY. The other one I picked up yesterday as well. Yeah, that's just a great looking chart. massive level here at 1650. So snagged some of that yesterday on a pullback as well. So those are doing great. And to answer your question, I have no idea why. You would imagine this would be inversely correlated with oil.
That's
Right?
how I've always played them. Yeah.
And usually it is. I don't know if maybe the risk management departments have gotten smarter and they're hedging their oil risk better or what it is. But generally speaking, you say if oil price is going to be higher, that's going to hurt the bottom line of airlines, and you get that inverse. But just not what we're seeing right now. So as long as this remains strong, I'm gonna keep getting involved. Another one, KRE, and it's a good just kind of rates play, right? So this is regional banks. Remember when regional banks were all going to go bankrupt and everyone was running for the hills and crying?
It still might happen, Michael.
Okay.
Any day now. Yeah, dude, looking great. So I think regional banks are just rates play, right? It's very much rate sensitive. Rates lower, it's good for these guys. Rates rip, it's bad for these guys. So this is probably big on the CPI or PPI that happened, where inflation came through just a little bit muted. So hey, maybe we'll get some more rate cuts. That does amazing for these. Right? Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they don't really care as much about rates because they've got everything all locked down anyway. But these little guys, your little regional ones, they're way more rate sensitive because they don't have, an entire 100-man interest rate trading team to hedge off their stuff. They're these little mom and pop shops. So I think this is basically, if this continues in KRE, just telling us that at least the market thinks that rates are going to be coming down in the near future.
Wow, we are smoking down here.
Smoking down. I think even got me considering VIX when I start seeing action like this. It's not looking pretty out there right now, at least in the last 15 minutes. Got about half the sectors in the red, led by technology on the downside.
Yo, Michael, this is a name for you to watch on the swing trade side. EWZ, Brazilian ETF. That might be bottomed out. That's showing interesting strength after just getting beat. EWZ.
Okay.
It's not pretty yet, but it's getting interesting for me for a swing. Like 3 months, like probably more investing than anything.
Interesting.
All right, team. If you guys want to bring up a trade or two, go ahead and do it. I'm going to go into talking about PPI coming up next, guys. So stay tuned. We'll learn all about PPI and its importance, why it matters. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at maybe things that you guys can be thinking about, right? Real life examples. I'll bring up one from March 2022. And then we can also talk about oil and how that can maybe come into play, adding oil into the PPI and inflation outlook. So stick around, guys. We're going to jump into that just coming up.
Gosh.
It's a hard
Bitcoin
trade
holding
today, man. Hard trade.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
JPM still going up, though. I think that, I'm still looking for the financials to stay strong today. If we think about it, they haven't been that bad. Basic materials, utilities, and industrials. Those are probably the four that I'd say, and real estate. And it stayed strong. All of these have been pretty strong here. I'll show you guys it just with the equally weighted basic materials up, utilities, industrials, financials, and real estate. Then you get into energy and you can see how it's just starting to recover. Some cyclicals heading to the downside, communications hanging out there, defensives down, technology heading towards the low, and healthcare also right back down. So, of course, when I see technology and healthcare down, it's going to be tough to get things back, right? So we'll see what happens today if the market can come back.
Yeah, this divergence between the SPY and the RSP is just it's wild to me. And this is what we see when the market is rotating, right? So RSP, your average, is the best way to describe it, your average large cap stock is doing great, sitting right up near highs of the day. Everything is fine. Your SPY, which is insanely tech heavy, at its lows. These divergences happen, generally not this pronounced, though, that you see one right near highs, the other right near lows. So basically it means if you're hanging out in tech, probably having a little bit of a bad time. If you're hanging out in, like what Mitch was mentioning, all these other sectors, then great. And again, we've been saying it for the last 2 weeks now that this kind of rotation has been happening where we have things like uranium doing well, We have that IWC, that micro cap sector is now up 1.4%. We mentioned that was flat earlier. But yeah, gold, corn, the Dow, which is going to be more materials and stuff heavy. PAVE, which is just a straight up inflation / industrial ETF. It's just, paving roads, that kind of stuff. That's doing financial. They're doing great. We have KRE, which are regional banks. That's doing phenomenal as well. So it's continuing, right? Tech is no longer leading, the leads for now, and then everything else is kind of catching up, making up the difference.
We'll see how other ones can kind of keep performing out there. Let's get to the conversation here. We'll talk a little bit about PPI and its importance. Feel free, guys, to weigh in on anything you guys want to add throughout this. Like always, guys, we'll just kind of have a conversation about this. And I think that's the important thing, guys, is having a conversation, right? So if you guys have anything you guys want to add in the chat, questions, comments, this is your time to shine, guys. This is when you guys can really kind of work through information. I know a lot of people see, talk on the media. Well, PPI is coming. A lot of people are like, well, why does that matter, right? Why does it matter, right? That's the question, right? So PPI is all about looking into kind of a forward outlook, right? So the producer price index measures the average change over time in selling prices received by domestic producers for their output. Essentially, guys, it tracks inflation at the producer or wholesale level. So that's why it's important. It's essentially a look into what could be coming on the CPI, right? And I think that's the important thing there. It's as opposed to the consumer level, right? And so a lot of people are looking at this as an inflation indicator right now, wondering if the PPI will provide an early sign for inflation to come in. Right. So, of course, this captures the price change at earlier stages of the production. So it could actually foreshadow what could happen in increases to the CPI. Of course, everyone will be watching the CPI as we get more and more information. Will we get a rate cut or not? Right. So that's what a lot of people look at this. The central bank policy decision matters a lot off of this. Right. The impact to corporate profits also go into weigh into this. So higher producer prices without corresponding increase in consumer prices can squeeze profit margins. And that's what you're hearing a lot mentioned right now. A lot of these kind of profit margins starting to get squeezed a little bit. This can also impact stock valuations overall, and it's a good economic health barometer, right? It reflects the demand on the economy. Rising PPI often correlates with a strong demand, while a decline in PPI may signal economic slowing down, right? And we're all trying to get insights on that. So I'll let you guys add a little bit of information, and then I'll bring in a real life example of PPI in the stock market. Anything that you guys want to add to that that you guys look for in PPI?
That's a pretty good overview. Michael, you got anything?
Yeah, well, I just think as someone who just always simplifies everything, it's the input inflation, right? So I brought up oil here. So USO is a perfect example. Now, another thing that I always like to say is that this data is very delayed. And one of the benefits of us sitting here and you guys watching us is that we're watching this happen. If USO breaks out, we know inflation is just naturally going to go higher. But what PPI just basically tells us is, so the oil refiners, for example, they take in oil, they make gas and everything, and then they export that. What that input cost is going to make a big difference, because as we know, corporations they're not just going to eat that cost, they're going to pass that cost down to the consumers. So it's all about, okay, if I buy corn, how much does my corn cost, and then that will determine how much I sell it to. So yeah, it can be a really good early indication of what's happening. Will the CPI increase or decrease? And not one for one, because these things are usually reported back to back, but because the data is delayed, a lot of people are looking closer at the PPI for that early warning sign, like you said, Mitch. But yeah, it's just more, what does stuff cost, right? That's what everyone cares about right now, because that's what the Fed's watching.
I'll take you back to 2022 in March, right? We were looking at the PPI, and it had jumped 11.2% year over year, marking one of the fastest rises in record, of course, for the PPI. And this was all driven by surging energy and commodity prices due to global supply chains disruptions, right? And this really kind of was affected by the Russian and Ukraine conflict. And then you start to take a look at how it affects the stock market, right? So let's talk just really quickly about consumer discretionary stocks, right? So a rising PPI signaled that there would be higher input costs for companies like Walmart and Target, right? So these companies, what do they got to do, right? They got to think about what they're going to do because of these rising input costs, right? So the concern grew that these costs would either shrink their profit margins or lead to the pass on to the consumer, right? Lead to higher prices, dampening the consumer demand, right? And that's another big focus of the PPI is how it can affect the supply and demand imbalance there, right? So retail stocks actually dropped because of this, because they saw that, hey, either profit margins are going to fall or the demand could fall because of this. In tech stocks, the prospects of inflation pushing the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates also spooked growth stocks, right? So that's another major concern, right? So a lot of this is always how is the Federal Reserve going to react to this, and how will these big corporations like Walmart, Target, Amazon, how will those react off of that, right? Then you can think about tech stocks overall in a kind of a growth basket. Those are the things you want to be asking yourself when you're thinking about these things in economics, right? How will this affect the growth stocks? How will this affect certain areas and pockets of the market? Because I think that that's what really we can gain an advantage of. We're not going to be able to call the PPI at 8:30, jump onto the move and grab the move. I see so many traders try to do this trade. It is one of the hardest trades ever to get right? Because it could be a fake out to the upside. It could be a fake out to the downside. What I think is when you see these economic data come out, it's more about taking the overall environment look and asking yourself, did the environment change or is it the same, right? Anything you want to add to that, Michael?
No, I think nail on the head, right? Because we're all Fed watching at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
The whole "don't fight the Fed" adage. So that's why we're looking so closely at these numbers. It's very interesting through my trading career, just seeing all of the different numbers that we care about over time. Because during the pandemic is probably the best way to look at it. No one cared about inflation. Same with the great financial collapse, right? In 2008, no one was worried about inflation when housing prices were getting cut in half, right? So the market didn't react to inflation and inflationary related numbers at all in any respects. It reacted to jobs reports. It reacted to new home sales. That was what's important. So this is one of those things that's really good to pay attention to and to adapt to, because the Fed is going to focus on different things. Back in 2008, the Fed was reacting to home prices. Right? We got to drop rates if home prices get too low to hold up the housing market. Now the Fed's reacting pretty much exclusively to inflation. So that's why we got to focus on these numbers. We might be having this conversation in a couple months, Mitch, where we don't care about inflation numbers anymore. Maybe the job market starts to get weak and we focus on those. So it's really important as a Fed whisperer and trying to figure out what's going on is to figure out what they're focusing on. So they're going to focus on CPI, they're going to focus on PPI, and all of these different inflationary related numbers. So hugely important, not necessarily because what the number says, but what the Fed is going to do. That's really what we care about. More rate cuts.
And it leads to what we've been talking about on the show today, guys, which is a lot of sector rotation talk, right? And I think that that's very important. So focusing on understanding this, and we're going to keep pushing it, right, guys? A lot of times you want to be asking yourself, right, if oil prices kind of stay elevated here, how might this affect the Federal Reserve's timeline in their rate adjustment, right? Things like that. That's what you want to be watching here. And it's not necessarily to trade off of it, but to understand it so that you can know the current environment. That's what matters most a lot of the times in your trading decisions, because if you don't understand the current environment, that's easily when traders get run over, right? Like really bad, right? I mean, that's when you usually get caught on the wrong side of the stick because you just don't even understand what's going on underneath the hood, right? You're trying to fix the radiator and don't realize that you got a blown head gasket, right?
My another old man trading quote from an old mentor. He always just said you need to understand which sandbox you're playing in, right? And then that was when you get from there. It doesn't mean that you're going to see a PPI print and you're going to take a trade off it, but if inflation continues, and we're going to see more and more less rate cuts, then that means certain stocks, certain sectors are going to do well, and vice versa, right? If we're going to see a bunch of rate cuts because inflation is going through the floor, well, then things like regional banks might start to get hot in this sector and that sector. So it's more about you understand what the environment is, you understand what the Fed may do because of that environment, and then you can kind of pick your sector that you're going to start looking for whatever setup it is, right? If you're a indicator person, well, then great, just narrow that stock selection on the sectors that are getting very interesting because of that.
Market is looking ugly, by the way, just to cut in here. If we don't catch here, then it could easily be a flush.
Yeah, I think this is when I start to think, okay, so what time are we near, right? We're near the 11 hour, right? I think at this point, majority of the standard day traders are gone, right? So a lot of times I always feel like the chop happens once they're gone. Now it's starting time to determine the trend. So what I'm watching here is not necessarily wick action, closing action on a 15-minute chart and watching to see what happens there, right? Because that's what's going to be a nice determining factor, right? Right now we're right near the bottom, but this could always turn right back towards the top end of the range. I think you got to watch to see what happens here in this range, right? Can we get out of this rectangle pattern here and just kind of get out of this? You see how there's wicks on both sides. Every time we get to the extreme on the top, you start to get some wicks. Every time you're getting extremes on the bottom, you're getting wicks. What is that trying to do? Trying to go to your impatience. Impatience. When the market's not moving is easy way to overtrade. And by the time you finally see the trend, you ain't going to have any ammo left, right? And that happens to so many traders.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just watching this 582 to 582.50 zone. I have two stacked triggers, one for an hour rising support, one for half hour rising support. So basically just tracking trends on different time frames, and it's holding admirably. This is the third test. It just always gets me antsy when you're having multiple tests to the downside. So let's see.
I'm watching the financials. Those are still looking good. XLF's now up there towards 48. I'm looking for a little bit of a pullback to maybe try to play some of those. DFS doing pretty well today. PayPal up about 1.5. AIG, some kind of looks like some insurance is showing up here a little bit. And seeing a little bit of some spike there, but we'll see. We'll see if some banks continue going. I mean, if I think about it now, it's almost leading the market. Up utilities, basic materials, and financial services. I'm just going to probably, if I would keep trading here, it's probably just trading that financial space. I could look at maybe some basic materials. I do like the thought of gold today. AU was the one that I was looking at, but that one got going off the 26, so I'd have to watch this. The key about this one is it now starting to turn, and every time I see AU kind of get going, that tells me to also look for the lag in GOLD. AU tends to lead, GOLD tends to lag. So once the AU momentum starts to really show up, I look to see if gold, GOLD bearish starts to turn around. We'll see if it gets that turnaround look.
And usually off the bottoms, correct me if I'm wrong, but according to my memory, silver generally has more torque in the same way that, often if you're getting these regime changes at the bottom of a major range, for example, you will see silver kind of push off higher than that. And then it has higher short interest too. So that's probably a component.
Gold's crazy cousin.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's what we call silver.
It's so much fun to trade, but only if you're right.
Bank of America doesn't look too bad for me to maybe take a scalp from it, right? I wrote it up to the 65s, but it's held the VWAP sideways now for about 30 minutes. So another time is I also saw some volume come in on that pullback of 45.50s. So that's looking good there. we'll see if the banks continue to move. I'm probably done for the day, guys. I got 134. Of course, that Tesla trade cost me a little bit. I'll show you guys my trades really quickly. Tesla down 140, chart of the day. But Bank of America made some really good money, right? I made 283 on Bank of America today. And those was it. That was it. Just those two trades, right? So I'm going to go ahead and call it quits on those two trades. Not a bad day for me on the main account, up towards 978. And then took a hit on the smaller account on Clean Spark. I didn't go back into another penny name. Wasn't really paying attention too much to those names today. But we'll see what happens on those. Just to name a name that's been doing well there, Rich Tech Robotics. But that's the robotics game getting a little bit of a bounce after, of course, the takedown from the prior 2 days. All right, kicking it to you guys. Any outlook you guys want to give before we get out of here? It's 10:55.
Really quick, yeah, I'm thinking tech's going down here. SPY, it better hold. It doesn't look like it's holding to me. I'm bullish into the end of the day on energy and basic materials, watching FCX and DVM.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll quickly go. So the day one of the new cleaned up algos, this VRME is the only one that that met all the triggers, right? We were looking for a break through that VWAP. So far, so good. Right. So again, this feels much better for me. It's calmer. It's right. I have, again, I know these symbols the night before, so I have time to sit and chart them out and draw my levels and do all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited for these new systems. And new systems are always exciting when you first get into them. But hopefully this one does a little bit better. Is a little less overwhelming than the other one was. And then the main thing from the markets I just want to point out is this equal weight versus cap weight. And it's kind of the same thing that Steve was just saying there, where, yeah, SPY not looking great, sitting at lows. This is, I think the SPY is like 30%. The MAG 7 or whatever you want to call it, MAGS is a ticker for that, right? So this illustrates it better, right? So the MAG 7 ETF has already filled the gap and is sitting right on lows. That's where your big guys are. Your small guys, your RSP, right, and more average of what the stocks are doing, that's looking great, hugging right near highs. It's fantastic. So that's one of those things where you just want to go where the getting's good. It's not in technology right now. So, you'll hear from CNBC and all those other places that don't go into this. Oh, the market is looking bad. The market's down today, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's just because, again, they're looking at the cap weight index, the SPY.
Yeah.
The average stock today is having a fine day. It's having a great day. It's up. So again, make sure you're looking a little bit past the headline numbers, a little bit past the headline reports, and you're going under the hood. And that's what we're doing here every day. So RSP average stock is doing just fantastic.
All right, guys, that's probably going to do it for us. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. We'll probably get going here. Not a bad day overall. Green on the main account, down 62 on the other one. And we'll keep battling, guys. And one thing that we did today, guys, look forward to some more fun, engaging segments like today's chart of the day contest. 0 for 1. But we'll keep battling, guys. We'll see how I do on these. I'll push it, guys. And the one thing that I love about these is that they push my skill level, right? They push on me. Like, hey, I'm just giving you this. Go see what you can do, right? And so I'll do it, guys. I'll do it for you guys. And I think it really puts pressure on me, but it's good pressure, right? Of course, I'm not going to take insane sizing on these. I'm not going to wreck my account on these, but I'll take the trade, right? And I think that just shows that there's always a trade available, right? There's always a trade to be made. It's more, do you want to take that risk and reward profile? And if that trade makes sense for you, of course, guys. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. We'll keep doing these and bringing in also importance like learning PPI, right? Things like this. If you guys have a topic you guys want to learn, whether the dead cat bounce, whether it's the Bollinger Bands, whether it's Michael's system and how to build a system for yourself, right? We're going to be building education here. We're going to be taking it to the next level. Steve always bringing in his lovely cat. What's your cat's name, Steve?
This is Cleo, and she's a
Cleo.
squirmy one right now.
Cleo, call me now. Call me now, guys, for your free tail reading. Maybe you get some trading action in there.
There, yeah.
Man, that's what I should have been doing. I should have been calling Miss Cleo about Bitcoin. But all right, guys. Well, that'll do it for us today. Michael, Steve, and I will be back tomorrow, guys. Keep battling out there in your journey. And like always, there's not one way to trade, guys. It's about working for yourself. What works for you is the most important thing. We'll see you guys back tomorrow. Keep battling.